The
We have been
security
tracking
alarm
this
wasn't
for
supposed to go
months.
off at 2:47
And what exactly
a.m.
do you think you found?
Not in the executive
proof
floors of
is
Chen
right here.
Technologies, and definitely not in the room that didn't officially exist. Marcus Chen stood frozen in his penthouse office, watching the blinking red light on his phone screen. Someone had breached the 32nd floor. Someone had found his secret. Daddy. Sophie's voice came through the baby monitor he still kept on his desk, even though she was 9. Old habits from sleepless nights when her mother was still alive. Daddy, I hear something. It's okay, sweetheart. Just the building settling. Go back to sleep. But it wasn't the building settling. Marcus pulled up the security feed on his laptop, his fingers moving across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. The 32nd floor was supposed to be under renovation, sealed off with construction barriers and warning signs. Nobody knew about the fully equipped medical room hidden behind the false wall. His private sanctuary for Sophie's episodes. The place where he could help her without questions, without judgment, without the world knowing that the daughter of tech mogul Marcus Chen couldn't handle being in public hospitals. The camera feed loaded. A figure moved through the shadows, stumbling, dragging something. No, someone. Marcus's blood ran cold. The figure collapsed just inside the medical room, and in the green glow of the emergency lighting, he could make out details. A woman, her cleaning uniform torn and bloodied, and beside her, a small child clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. He should call security. He should call the police. He should do anything except what he did next. Marcus grabbed his emergency medical kit and ran for the elevator, barefoot, still in his MIT t-shirt and pajama pants. The private elevator descended silently, each floor marker a heartbeat of indecision. What if this was a trap? What if someone had discovered what he'd built for Sophie? The medical room had cost him $3 million to construct in secret hospital-grade equipment, pharmaceutical supplies, even a small surgical suite. All for a little girl who screamed when strangers in white coats came near her. The elevator opened to darkness. Emergency lighting cast angular shadows across the construction debris he'd had strategically placed to discourage exploration. But there, at the end of the hall, the hidden door stood ajar. Blood. A trail of it led from the stairwell to the door, dark droplets on pristine marble that told a story of desperation. Someone had climbed 20 flights of stairs, injured, carrying a child. Marcus pushed through the door. She was conscious, barely. Blonde hair matted with blood from a gash on her forehead. One arm wrapped protectively around a girl who couldn't be more than 6. The child was sobbing quietly, the kind of exhausted tears that come when you've been crying for so long you've forgotten why you started. Please, the woman whispered in accented English. Russian, maybe? Please don't call anyone. He'll find us. You're hurt. I know what I need. Her eyes blazed with sudden fury, then softened. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We'll leave. We'll go. Just give me a moment. The little girl looked up then, and Marcus saw it. The bluish tinge to her lips, the shallow, rapid breathing, the way she held her tiny chest. He'd seen it before, in Sophie, during her worst panic attacks. But this was different. This was cardiac. Your daughter needs help, he said quietly. She needs surgery, the woman said, and laughed bitterly. Surgery I can't afford, in a country where I'm nobody. From doctors who see a cleaning lady and think I'm too stupid to understand what's wrong with my own child. Marcus knelt beside them, his hands moving to the medical supplies on the wall. What's her condition? The woman stared at him. You wouldn't understand? Try me. Tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia. She's had 2 palliative surgeries in Moscow, but she needs the full repair. The humanitarian visa only covers emergency care, not complex surgery. I clean toilets in this building, 14 hours a day, saving every penny, but it's not enough. It will never be enough. Marcus's hands stilled. He knew those terms. He'd learned them all when Sophie was born premature, when they thought her heart wouldn't make it. He'd become an expert in pediatric cardiology, the way he'd become an expert in coding, obsessively, completely. What's your name? He asked. Does it matter? It does to her, Marcus said, nodding at the child. Elena, this is Mila. I'm Marcus, and Elena, You're sitting in a fully equipped medical facility that nobody knows exists. I built it for my daughter, for reasons I don't need to explain. But right now, Mila needs oxygen and monitoring. He moved to the supply cabinet, pulling out pediatric supplies he'd prayed he'd never need to use. I'm going to help her. Then we're going to talk about who you're running from and why you thought breaking into a tech company was safer than going to the police. Elena's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. Nobody just helps. There's always a price. You're right, Marcus said, fitting the oxygen mask gently over Mila's face, watching her breathing ease almost immediately. There is a price. You're going to tell me how you knew about this room, because according to my security system, this door doesn't exist. So either you're the luckiest desperate mother in Manhattan, or someone told you exactly where to find me. Elena closed her eyes. I clean your office every night. I've seen the drawings. What drawings? The ones your daughter leaves on your desk. Pictures of a medical room, pictures of a safe place, pictures labeled Daddy's Secret Hospital. Children see everything, Mr. Chen, and sometimes desperate mothers pay attention to what children see. Marcus felt the world tilt. Sophie's drawings, his brilliant traumatized daughter, who documented everything in pictures because words had failed her. She'd been leaving him breadcrumbs, and somehow this bleeding woman had followed them here. Daddy! The voice came from behind him. Sophie stood in the doorway, holding her tablet, her face calm in the way that meant she was processing too much to react. She looked at Elena, at Mila, at the blood on the floor. Then she did something she hadn't done in 6 months. She spoke to a stranger. That's the lady who smiles, Sophie said. The one who leaves origami cranes on your desk. Marcus turned to Elena, who was crying openly now, her tough facade crumbling. Every night, Elena whispered, I leave one crane, for hope. I never imagined anyone noticed. And in that moment, in a room that didn't exist, with a child who couldn't breathe and another who couldn't speak, Marcus Chen realized that sometimes the universe doesn't knock. Sometimes it breaks down your door, bleeds on your floor, and forces you to remember what it means to be human. Sometimes salvation comes disguised as disaster. And sometimes, just sometimes, the secrets we keep become the miracles we never saw coming. Marcus Chen had built an empire worth $3 billion, but at 3:47 a.m., standing in his penthouse kitchen making hot chocolate for 2 traumatized children, he felt like the poorest man in Manhattan. The kitchen was a monument to unused potential, a $12,000 espresso machine that had made exactly 7 cups of coffee, a Viking range that had never seen anything more complex than scrambled eggs, copper pots that hung like museum pieces. His wife Catherine had designed this kitchen. She'd died before she could cook in it. Sophie likes marshmallows, he said to the silence, because talking to himself had become normal. The tiny ones, not the big ones. She says the big ones are too shouty. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan glittered like a circuit board, each light a connection, a possibility, a life being lived. Marcus had spent the last 2 years watching those lights, counting them sometimes when sleep wouldn't come, wondering if anyone else out there was raising a daughter who'd forgotten how to exist in the world. Sophie hadn't always been silent. Before Catherine's death, she'd been what the preschool teachers called delightfully verbose, a chatterbox who narrated her entire day, who sang made-up songs about breakfast cereal, who asked why questions until Marcus would playfully beg for mercy. That Sophie had died in the same car accident that took Catherine, even though her body had survived. The first month, the doctors said it was trauma. The second month, they said selective mutism. By the 6th month, they just said to be patient. Marcus had been patient for 731 days. He'd counted every single one. His days had developed a rhythm of emptiness. Wake at 5 a.m. Check Sophie's room to make sure she'd slept. Find the note she'd leave him. Always a note, never spoken words. Good morning, Daddy. I dreamt about blue elephants. Or, my stomach feels like butterflies, but the angry kind. Or sometimes just a drawing of the 2 of them, stick figures holding hands in front of a house that no longer felt like home. Then the office, where he could pretend to be whole. Marcus Chen, the wunderkind who'd sold his first startup at 22, who'd revolutionized AI-driven healthcare software, who gave TED Talks about innovation and disruption. Nobody knew that he recorded those talks at 4 a.m. because that's when Sophie's sleeping medication worked best. Nobody knew that his revolutionary healthcare AI had been born from desperate midnight research sessions, trying to find something, anything, that could help his daughter speak again. The company ran itself mostly. His executives were competent, his engineers brilliant, his vision clear even through the fog of grief. Marcus had discovered that you could function at the highest level while being completely hollow inside. You could close billion-dollar deals with a smile while your daughter ate dinner in silence, drawing pictures of her dead mother on napkins. Mr. Chen? Elena stood in the doorway, Mila sleeping in her arms. She'd cleaned the blood from her face, revealing exhaustion that looked carved into her bones. "There's a guest room," Marcus said. "Third door on the right. It has its own bathroom." "Why are you helping us?" Marcus poured hot chocolate into cups. One with dinosaurs for Sophie, one with stars for Mila. His hands were steady. They were always steady. It was the rest of him that shook. "My wife died 2 years ago. February 15th, 6:43 p.m. She was coming home from her baby shower. We were having another child. She never made it. Sophie was in the car. She watched her mother die, and she hasn't spoken to anyone except me since. And lately, not even to me." He turned to face Elena. "So, when you ask why I'm helping, I don't know. Maybe because I understand what it's like to be helpless. Maybe because Sophie spoke to you, and that's the first miracle I've seen in 2 years. Or maybe because I'm so tired of being alone in this perfect empty tower that I'd let anyone in just to hear another heartbeat." Elena shifted Mila's weight. "You don't even know us. I know you're running from someone who hurt you. I know you're working yourself to death for your daughter. I know you leave origami cranes on my desk, 23 so far. I kept them all. They're in my drawer next to Sophie's first report card and Catherine's wedding ring." Marcus laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. "I know you're probably the only person in this building who's more broken than me, which is saying something." "I'm not broken," Elena said quietly. "I'm surviving." "Is there a difference?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Your daughter's drawings, she doesn't just draw the medical room. She draws you, working, always working. She draws herself getting smaller and smaller in each picture, like she's disappearing. She draws her mother as an angel, but the angel is always leaving, flying away. And in the last one I saw, she drew herself with no mouth at all." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "You looked at my daughter's drawings?" "I look at everything. It's how I've stayed alive. In Russia, you learn to read people like maps, to see danger before it sees you. Your daughter isn't just silent, Mr. Chen. She's drowning, and you're so busy building life rafts that you don't see she's already underwater." The words should have made him angry. Instead, they made him relieved. Finally, someone was saying what everyone else was too polite to mention. "I don't know how to save her," he admitted. "I've tried everything. Therapists, specialists, art therapy, music therapy, horse therapy. Do you know they have therapy with horses?" She liked the horses, but still didn't speak. "I bought her every communication device, learned sign language, hired tutors. Nothing. She goes to school, does her work, comes home, draws, and goes to bed. It's like living with a ghost of my daughter." "Maybe she doesn't need saving," Elena said. "Maybe she just needs someone to be drowning with her." Marcus looked at this stranger, this cleaning lady with blood under her fingernails and a dying child in her arms, and felt something crack inside him. Not break, he was already broken. This was different. This was like ice thawing, painful and necessary. "The guest room has clean clothes in the closet. Catherine's things. She was about your size." He paused. "I should have donated them, but I couldn't. Sophie likes to smell them sometimes. Says they still smell like mommy." Elena's eyes softened. "Thank you. In the morning, we'll figure out what you're running from. And we'll figure out how to get Mila her surgery. You can't just... I have more money than God and nothing to spend it on except therapy that doesn't work, and a daughter who won't eat marshmallows because she says they're too happy for sad hot chocolate." Marcus rubbed his face. "Let me help. Not because I'm kind, but because I'm selfish. Because tonight, for the first time in 2 years, my apartment doesn't feel like a mausoleum. Because Sophie spoke to you. Because maybe, if I can save your daughter, the universe will forgive me for failing mine. Elena studied him for a long moment. You didn't fail her. She's still here. Is she? Marcus gestured at the silent apartment, the walls covered with Sophie's drawings, the refrigerator with carefully prepared meals she'd barely touch, the toy room that looked like a store display because nothing ever moved. Sometimes I'd think I'm living with her memory, not her. Like the real Sophie is trapped somewhere I can't reach, and all I have is this quiet echo of who she used to be. From down the hall came a sound, Sophie's door opening. She appeared in her dinosaur pajamas, tablet in hand. She looked at Elena, at Mila, then at Marcus. She held up her tablet. On it, she'd typed, "The sad lady and sick girl can stay. Maybe if we're all sad together, it won't be so loud." Marcus knelt beside his daughter. "Is the sad too loud, baby?" Sophie nodded, then typed, "Since Mommy left, everything is too loud except my voice." And standing there, in his perfect kitchen, with its unused appliances and hollow beauty, Marcus Chen understood that maybe Elena was right. Maybe they didn't need saving. Maybe they just needed to learn how to drown together, quietly, until they remembered how to breathe. On bastas gastas. Elena Volkov had performed over 300 cardiac surgeries before her 32nd birthday. But now she stood in Marcus Chen's bathroom at 6 a.m., staring at her reflection and trying to remember who she used to be. The woman in the mirror looked like a ghost wearing Catherine Chen's clothes. A soft cashmere sweater that probably cost more than Elena made in a month. Jeans that fit perfectly, as if expensive clothes could sense desperation and adjusted themselves out of pity. Her blonde hair, once kept in a precise surgical bob, now hung past her shoulders, brittle from cheap shampoo and exhaustion. The scar above her left eyebrow, courtesy of her ex-husband Dimitri's wedding ring, had faded to silver, but still ached when it rained. "Mama?" Mila's voice came through the door, small and worried, always worried. "I'm here, little bird, just washing my face." The nice man made pancakes. They're shaped like bears. Pancakes shaped like bears. Elena closed her eyes, remembering the last time she'd made anything special for Mila. 2 months ago, a birthday cake from a box mix, decorated with a single candle they had used 3 times already, because candles were an unnecessary expense when your daughter needed $30,000 worth of surgery. She emerged to find Marcus and Sophie in the kitchen, moving in the synchronized silence of people who'd learned to communicate without words. Sophie was setting the table with mathematical precision, forks exactly parallel, napkins folded into perfect triangles. Marcus flipped pancakes with the focus of a man performing surgery, as if achieving the perfect golden brown color might somehow fix everything broken in his life. "Dr. Volkov," Marcus said without turning around, "I hope you slept well." Elena froze. "How did you—" "Google is a wonderful thing." Dr. Elena Volkov, formerly of Moscow Children's Hospital, published 14 papers on pediatric cardiac surgery, revolutionized the infant heart transplant protocol in Eastern Europe, disappeared from the medical community 3 years ago after a patient death. Dmitry Volkov, your ex-husband, is currently wanted by Interpol for arms dealing, though he seems to have excellent lawyers keeping him just out of reach. Sophie looked up from her plate, where she'd been arranging blueberries into a perfect spiral. She held up her tablet. "Daddy investigates everyone. He says information is armor." "Your daddy is a smart man," Elena said carefully, sitting down next to Mila, who was already drowning her bear pancakes in syrup with the determination of a child who didn't know when the next treat might come. "The patient who died," Marcus continued, still focused on the stove. "Viktor Kozlov's daughter, the Russian energy minister. She was 7, same age as Sophie is now." "She was 6, Elena corrected quietly. "Natasha Kozlova, 6 years old, loved ballet, had a collection of snow globes from every country her father visited. The surgery went perfectly, every stitch, every connection, flawless. But someone had tampered with the post-operative medications, switched them. She died in my arms while her father screamed that I was a murderer." Marcus finally turned around. "Your husband did it." Ex-husband. And yes, he needed Victor's cooperation for a weapons deal. What better leverage than saving his daughter? Except Dmitri didn't want her saved. He wanted her dead, and someone to blame. A foreign doctor, a woman who'd already filed for divorce, who'd already threatened to expose his operations. Elena's voice was steady, clinical, as if she was presenting a case study. Viktor had me stripped of my license, banned from every hospital in Russia. Dmitri got his weapons deal, and I got a choice: leave the country with Mila or watch her mysteriously develop the same condition I'd failed to cure. Sophie's tablet appeared in front of Elena. Bad people sometimes win. Mommy said that's why good people have to be stronger. Your mommy sounds wise, Elena said. She's dead, Sophie typed matter-of-factly. But her words aren't. Mila looked up from her pancakes, syrup on her chin. My papa is bad, she announced in her small voice. He hits Mama and says mean things, but Mama is stronger. She learned to be invisible. Not invisible enough, Elena murmured. Marcus sat down at the table, his own plate untouched. He found you here. It wasn't a question, Elena nodded. 3 days ago, I was cleaning the executive conference room. I turned around and there he was, sitting in your chair actually, feet on the table like he owned the place. He said he'd had men watching me for months, said Mila was getting worse. He'd paid doctors to review her medical records, said if she died here, alone, without proper surgery, it would be my fault. Another dead child on my hands. What did he want? What he always wants, control. He offered me a deal, come back to Moscow, be his wife again, and he'd pay for Mila's surgery. The best doctors, the best hospital, everything she needs. All I had to do was give up this foolish attempt at freedom. Elena laughed bitterly. He even showed me the surgical team he'd assembled, former colleagues of mine, people I'd trained. They looked at me through his phone screen like I was already dead. Marcus stood abruptly, pacing to the window. You can't go back. I have 6 weeks, Elena said. Maybe 8 if God is kind. That's how long Mila has before her condition deteriorates beyond surgical repair. After that, we're looking at palliative care, making her comfortable while her heart fails. She knows, by the way. She's 6, but she knows she's dying. She asked me yesterday if heaven has pancakes. Sophie's tablet clattered onto the table. She was shaking, her face pale. Her fingers flew across the screen. No, no more dying, no more mommies leaving, no more. Sophie, baby. Marcus reached for her, but she jerked away, typing furiously. Fix her. You fix everything. You fix the AI that wasn't working. You fix the company when it was failing. Fix the little girl. It's not that simple. Sophie threw the tablet across the room. It shattered against the wall, and for the first time in 2 years, she screamed. Not words, just sound, raw, primal, the accumulated silence of 700 days ripping out of her throat. Marcus caught her as she collapsed, her small body convulsing with sobs. He held her, rocking slowly, whispering words that meant nothing and everything. Elena watched, frozen, as this man who'd built an empire crumbled on his kitchen floor, holding his broken daughter, while her own broken daughter watched with 2 knowing eyes. I can fix her, Elena said suddenly. The words surprised her as much as anyone. Mila, I can perform the surgery myself. Marcus looked up, his face streaked with Sophie's tears. You don't have a license. No hospital would allow. Your secret medical room, it's equipped for surgery. I saw the inventory last night while you were making hot chocolate. You didn't just build an emergency room, Mr. Chen. You built a surgical suite. Why? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, Sophie's sobs settling into hiccups against his chest. Catherine's second pregnancy. The baby had a heart defect, diagnosed at 20 weeks. The doctors said they could operate immediately after birth, but Catherine was paranoid about hospitals after a friend died from an infection. She begged me to find another way. So I built this room, hired a private surgical team on standby, the best money could buy. He swallowed hard. They never got to use it. Catherine and the baby died on the way to the hospital. But I kept it all, every instrument, every machine, just in case. Just in case what? Just in case I could save someone else's daughter, since I couldn't save my own. Elena stood, walked to where Sophie's tablet had fallen. The screen was cracked but still functional. She picked it up, typed something, and showed it to Sophie. What if we save each other? Sophie looked at the words for a long moment, then took the tablet with shaking hands. She typed, Mama used to say broken things can still work, like her grandmother's vase that had gold in the cracks. Kintsugi, Elena said softly. The Japanese art of repairing broken things with gold, making them more beautiful for having been broken. Can you really do it? Marcus asked. The surgery? I've done it 47 times. My success rate was 96%. The two I lost were beyond saving before they reached the table. Elena met his eyes. But I'll need help. An anesthesiologist, surgical nurses, someone to monitor the equipment. I know people, discreet people, doctors who've lost their licenses for political reasons, for refusing to play the system. Catherine researched them extensively. Marcus stood, still holding Sophie. But Dmitri will never see it coming, Elena finished. He thinks I'm weak, desperate, with no options. He's watching the hospitals, the clinics, waiting for me to surrender. The last place he'd expect me to operate is in a tech mogul's secret surgical suite. Mila tugged on Elena's sleeve. Mama, are you going to fix my heart? Elena knelt beside her daughter, this little girl who'd inherited her father's green eyes, but her mother's iron will. I'm going to try, little bird. Will it hurt? You'll be asleep, and when you wake up, your heart will be stronger. Mila considered this. Will Sophie be there when I wake up? Sophie nodded vigorously, typing. I'll be there. I'll teach you the sign language for brave and strong and sister. The last word hung in the air like a challenge to the universe. Sister. As if these two broken families could simply decide to become whole. Marcus's phone buzzed. Security footage from the lobby. A man in an expensive suit, talking to the security guard, showing some kind of badge. Even in the grainy footage, Elena recognized the walk, predatory, confident, like he already owned everything he surveyed. That's Victor, she breathed. Dimitri's new business partner, the father of the girl who died. Marcus enlarged the image. Victor Kozlov looked older, grayer, but his eyes were the same, empty holes where a soul should be. He's showing a health inspector badge. Dimitri's warning me. He knows I'm here. He's giving me time to think about it, to get desperate enough to come crawling back. Elena's hands clenched. He always did like his games. Sophie tugged on Marcus's sleeve, then typed on the tablet. Daddy, you always say the best strategy is the one nobody expects. Marcus looked at his daughter, this silent child who'd been observing, learning, processing everything, even in her grief. What would you do, baby? Sophie typed for a long moment, then turned the screen toward them. Invite the bad man for dinner. Mommy said keep your enemies closer. Make him think he's winning. Then do the surgery while he's watching the wrong door. Elena stared at this 9-year-old girl, who'd just outlined a strategy worthy of a chess grandmaster. Your daughter is frightening. She gets it from her mother, Marcus said, but there was pride in his voice. Catherine could destroy a hostile takeover with a smile and a spreadsheet. Then we do it, Elena decided. We invite Dmitri to negotiate. We make him think he's won. And while he's gloating, we save Mila. And after? Marcus asked. When he discovers what we've done? Elena's smile was sharp as a scalpel. Then we remind him that I'm not just a doctor. I'm Russian. We know how to win wars, especially the ones everyone thinks we've already lost. The pizza arrived at 7 p.m., but by then, they'd already become something neither family had expected. Connected. It started with sign language. Sophie, who hadn't voluntarily interacted with another child in 2 years, sat cross-legged on the living room floor, teaching Mila how to sign pizza with the patience of a saint. Mila, despite her blue-tinged lips and frequent pauses to catch her breath, mimicked every gesture with determination that made Elena's chest ache. This is cheese, Sophie demonstrated, her fingers moving precisely. And this is pepperoni, but if you do them really fast together, it means perfect pizza. Mila giggled, the sound like bells in the too-quiet apartment. Perfect pizza, she signed back, her small hands clumsy but enthusiastic. Marcus watched from the kitchen doorway, holding wine glasses he'd forgotten to fill. She's teaching her nonsense signs now, he said to Elena, who was curled in the corner of his $12,000 couch like she was afraid to take up space. Let them be nonsensical, Elena replied. The world will make them serious soon enough. They'd spent the afternoon in a strange domestic ballet, Elena helping Marcus understand Mila's medical charts, while Sophie and Mila built a blanket fort that had consumed every cushion in the penthouse. The charts were spread across the coffee table now, between scattered crayons and two iPads streaming different cartoons on mute. Her last echo showed severe pulmonary stenosis, Elena explained, pointing to numbers that made Marcus's chest tighten. The right ventricular pressure is approaching systemic. In simple terms, her heart is working 3 times harder than it should, Marcus finished, like running a marathon every moment she's awake. Elena looked surprised. You understand cardiology? I understand everything that could have saved my wife and second daughter. Spent 6 months learning medicine the same way I learned coding. Obsessively, uselessly, too late. He sat down beside her, careful to maintain professional distance. Placental abruption, that's what killed them. 15 minutes. That's how long Catherine had between the first symptom and complete separation. The baby never had a chance. You couldn't have. I know, logically I know. But logic doesn't help at 3 a.m. when Sophie's crying for her mother, and I can't explain why Mommy chose to leave. Marcus watched the girls, who were now sharing pizza, Mila carefully picking off pepperonis to give to Sophie. She thinks Catherine chose to die. That's why she stopped talking. She told me once, before the silence, that maybe if she was quieter, better, less trouble, Catherine would come back. Elena's hand moved toward his, stopped, retreated. Mila thinks her illness is punishment for being born. Dmitri told her that once, that sick children are God's way of punishing bad mothers. She apologizes every time she can't breathe properly. Jesus? No, just Dmitri. Elena accepted the wine glass Marcus finally remembered to fill. Do you know what he said when Mila was diagnosed? He said at least she'd die young before she could disappoint him by becoming like me. They sat in silence, watching their daughters create an elaborate ritual around pizza consumption that involved specific bites in specific orders, communicated entirely through gestures and giggles. Daddy, Sophie's voice, actual voice, not tablet. Daddy, Mila needs her medicine. Both adults jumped up, but Mila was fine, just holding her chest the way she did when her heart raced. Elena grabbed the medication from her bag, tiny pills that cost $200 a month, pills she'd skipped meals to afford. Here, little bird, Elena said softly, but Mila shook her head. Sophie, do it, she whispered. Sophie looked terrified, but took the pills, read the label with 9-year-old seriousness, and handed them to Mila with a glass of water. 2 pills, with water, sit up straight, she instructed, repeating what she'd heard Elena say. Mila took them obediently, then signed something Sophie had definitely not taught her, a chaotic gesture that looked like a butterfly having a seizure. What's that mean? Marcus asked. Sophie grinned. It means medicine tastes like sad butterflies. That's actually pretty accurate, Elena laughed, and the sound transformed her face. For a moment, Marcus saw who she must have been before. Brilliant, vibrant, alive. Can we watch a movie? Mila asked, her voice stronger after the medication. All together? Marcus looked at the $50,000 home theater system that hadn't been used since Catherine died. I don't know what movies kids watch. Frozen, both girls said simultaneously, then looked at each other in wonder. You know Frozen? Mila asked Sophie. Sophie nodded, then signed something elaborate. Mila didn't understand, so Sophie grabbed her tablet, typing, I know all the words, but I can't sing them anymore. My voice for singing went with Mommy. Mila took the tablet, typing slowly with one finger. I can sing for both of us. And she did. As the movie played, Mila sang every word in accented English, while Sophie signed along, creating a strange, beautiful duet of sound and motion. Elena curled deeper into the couch, exhaustion finally winning. Her head drooped onto Marcus's shoulder, and he didn't move, afraid to disturb this fragile peace. Let It Go started playing, and Mila stood up, belting it out with the passion of someone who'd been told to be quiet too many times. Sophie stood with her, signing dramatically, and for the first time in 2 years, Marcus saw his daughter's face alive with pure joy. Then Mila stumbled, just a little, but enough. Her face went white, then blue, and she collapsed like a marionette with cut strings. Mila! Elena was instantly awake, on the floor, fingers on her daughter's pulse. Her heart rate is 180, Marcus said, already timing it. Sophie, get the emergency bag from the medical room. You know the code. Sophie ran without hesitation, her bare feet slapping against marble. She was back in less than a minute with the red bag Marcus had taught her about, their emergency kit for her panic attacks, but equipped for worse. Elena worked with surgical precision, crushing aspirin under Mila's tongue, positioning her, monitoring her pulse. It's SVT, supraventricular tachycardia. Her heart can't maintain this much longer. The medical room, no time. Elena looked up at him. I need ice water, now. Marcus ran to the kitchen, filled a bowl with ice and water. Elena took it, dunked a washcloth, and pressed it to Mila's face. Come on, little bird, reset. You know how to do this. 30 seconds, 60. Marcus counted each one while Sophie stood frozen, tablet clutched to her chest. Then Mila gasped, her heart rate dropping visibly in the pulse at her throat. Mama? I'm here, baby. You're okay? Did I die again? No, little bird. Just visited. Didn't stay. Sophie suddenly threw her tablet across the room, but this time not in anger. She knelt beside Mila, took her hand, and spoke clearly. You can't die. I forbid it. I'm the big sister now, and big sisters make the rules. Mila smiled weakly. Okay, big sister. Marcus lifted Mila carefully, carrying her to the couch, while Elena followed with the medical supplies. They worked together seamlessly. Marcus taking vitals while Elena administered medication. Their movements synchronized like they'd done this 1,000 times. Her surgery can't wait, Elena said quietly. These episodes will get worse. Then we don't wait. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm calling Dr. Richardson. He lost his license for refusing to let an insurance company override his medical decisions, but he's the best anesthesiologist on the East Coast. He owes me a favor. Marcus? No arguments. Sophie's right. Big sisters make the rules, and apparently my daughter has decided Mila is her sister, which means... He paused, looking at Elena. Which means you're family now. And family doesn't let family face things alone. Elena's eyes filled with tears. You barely know us. I know Sophie spoke for Mila. I know Mila sang for Sophie. I know you trusted me enough to fall asleep on my shoulder. I know your daughter has exactly the condition my second child had, and I have exactly the room you need. He met her eyes. Maybe that's coincidence. Or maybe Catherine is up there, pulling strings, making sure no other family goes through what we did. Sophie tugged on his sleeve, then signed something he didn't recognize. What's that mean? He asked. It's our new sign, Sophie said aloud. Mine and Mila's. It means found family. Found family, Elena repeated softly. In Russian, we have a saying, family is not about blood, it's about who would bleed for you. Marcus looked around the room, at Mila dozed on the couch with Sophie, vigilantly watching her breathing, at Elena surrounded by medical charts and medication schedules, at the abandoned pizza and the paused movie and the blanket fort that had somehow survived Mila's collapse. Then I guess we're family, he said simply. Sophie climbed into his lap, something she hadn't done in months. She pulled up her tablet, typing, Daddy, can they stay forever? Marcus looked at Elena, who was watching him with eyes that held too much understanding. That's complicated, baby. Sophie typed again, the best things always are. Mommy said that's how you know they're worth it. And sitting there, in his penthouse that suddenly felt less like a mausoleum and more like a home, Marcus realized his 9-year-old daughter was right. The best things were complicated, like falling in love with your wife while she was dying, like building a surgical suite for a baby who never took a breath, like opening your door to strangers and finding family, like discovering that sometimes the family you choose is the one that chooses you back. Yes, he said finally. They can stay as long as they need. Elena's hand found his across the couch, squeezing once. A promise, a thank you, a recognition that something had shifted, something that couldn't be undone. On the TV, Elsa was building an ice castle, creating something beautiful from isolation and fear. In the penthouse, 2 broken families were doing the same thing. 1 shared meal, 1 medical crisis, 1 moment of unexpected grace at a time. And then, the board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. Monday, but by 9:47, Marcus Chen's carefully constructed world had already started cracking at the foundation. It began with whispers in the elevator, two junior executives who didn't notice him behind them, discussing the Russian cleaning lady their security chief had flagged. Lives in the building now, one said. With her kid, can you imagine? Chen's lost it since his wife died. Marcus stayed silent, but his jaw tightened. 3 days. Elena and Mila had been with them for 3 days, and already the vultures were circling. The boardroom was a glass cage suspended 40 floors above Manhattan, designed to make visitors feel both powerful and precarious. Marcus entered to find his board already assembled, their faces carefully neutral in that corporate way that meant blood was about to be spilled. Marcus, Richard Blackstone, his lead investor, stood with practiced concern. We need to talk about your recent decisions. My decisions regarding the unauthorized use of company property for personal medical procedures, the employment of unlicensed medical professionals, the harboring of foreign nationals with questionable legal status. Richard slid a folder across the table. Should I continue? Marcus didn't touch the folder. He knew what was in it. Photos of Elena entering the building, Mila's medical records somehow obtained, probably even footage from the medical floor he thought was secure. You're having me watched. We're protecting our investment, Richard corrected. Chen Technologies is about to go public. We can't afford scandal. A CEO housing his cleaning lady, playing doctor with unauthorized medical equipment, the optics alone. The optics, Marcus repeated slowly. Let me tell you about optics, Richard. That cleaning lady is Dr. Elena Volkov, who revolutionized pediatric cardiac surgery in Eastern Europe. That unauthorized medical equipment is saving a 6-year-old child's life. And if you think threatening me will make me abandon a dying child, you've forgotten who you're dealing with. We know exactly who we're dealing with, another board member, Patricia Winters, interjected. A man who hasn't been the same since his wife died, who built a secret medical facility in a tech building, who's making emotional decisions that could destroy everything we've built. Marcus's phone buzzed. Security alert. He glanced down to see Dmitry Volkov entering the building's lobby, wearing a $10,000 suit and a smile that promised violence. In fact, Patricia continued, we've taken the liberty of reaching out to the child's father. Mr. Volkov is here to discuss his daughter's situation. The betrayal hit Marcus like ice water. You called him? He called us, Richard said, concerned about his ex-wife's mental stability, about his daughter being held against his will. He seems very reasonable, Marcus, very willing to handle this quietly. The boardroom door opened. Dmitry walked in like he owned the place, which, Marcus realized with sick certainty, was exactly what this was about. Not just Mila, not just Elena, but Chen Technologies itself. Mr. Chen, Dmitry's accent was purposefully thick, playing up the foreign threat. Thank you for taking care of my girls, but it's time they came home. They're not going anywhere with you, Dmitry smiled. No, even when I have full custody, even when Elena is here illegally, her visa expired 2 weeks ago, even when I can prove she's unstable, a danger to our daughter. He pulled out his phone, showed a video. Elena in Moscow, screaming in Russian, throwing medical instruments. Breakdown after she killed the Kozlov girl. Very sad. Psychiatrists say she never recovered. That's edited footage. Truth is what the court believes, Dmitry interrupted. And courts believe fathers who can provide, not mothers who clean toilets and steal from their employers. Steal? Marcus stood. What are you talking about? Richard cleared his throat. Several items have gone missing from the executive floors. Expensive items. Mr. Volkov suggests his ex-wife might be responsible, though he's willing to overlook it if she returns to Moscow immediately. Marcus understood now. This wasn't just about control. It was a hostile takeover, using Elena and Mila as leverage. Dmitry wanted something, and the board was helping him get it. What do you really want? Marcus asked directly. Dmitry's smile widened. Smart man, your company has developed certain AI algorithms that could be very useful in defense applications. Pattern recognition, behavioral prediction, threat assessment, the kind of technology certain governments would pay billions for. You want me to weaponize our healthcare AI. I want you to maximize its potential. Your wife's death made you soft, sentimental. You're sitting on fortune-making technology, wasting it on helping sick children. Dmitry shrugged. Help my sick child instead, and I'll make you richer than you've ever imagined. And Elena returns to Moscow as my wife, where she belongs, with proper treatment for her mental condition, of course, the best facilities, very humane. Marcus felt his phone vibrate. A text from Sophie. Bad man is here. We're in the safe room. Mila is sick again. The safe room. Catherine's paranoid addition to the penthouse, built after a kidnapping threat when Sophie was 3. Biometric locks, emergency communication, enough supplies for a week. Elena must have recognized the danger and moved the girls. I need time to consider, Marcus said. 1 hour, Dmitri replied. Then I call immigration. Elena's deportation hearing would be complicated, especially with her mental health history. They might not let her take Mila. Foster care here, institutionalization there, so many terrible possibilities. The board members shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke up. They'd chosen their side. Marcus left without another word, taking the private elevator directly to the penthouse. He found Elena in the safe room, Mila unconscious on the medical cot, Sophie holding her hand and humming, not singing, but humming. Progress. How much did you hear? He asked. All of it, Elena replied, pointing to the security monitor. You had the room wired for sound. Catherine was thorough. Elena, he's not wrong, she interrupted. I did have a breakdown. I did scream, throw things. The girl I couldn't save, Natasha, she looked exactly like Mila. Same age, same eyes. When she died, I saw my daughter dying, over and over. The video is real, just selective. Marcus knelt beside Mila, checking her vitals. Her color is worse. The stress is accelerating her condition. Every confrontation with Dmitri costs us time we don't have. Elena's voice was clinical, detached. You should give me to him. What? He's right. I'm here illegally now. My visa did expire. I couldn't leave to renew it because Mila was too sick to travel. I have no legal standing, but you do. If I go back with him, you can petition for Mila's emergency medical care. Save her while you what? Disappear into some Russian psychiatric hospital? Become his prisoner again? Marcus stood, angry now. You think I'd save your daughter while sacrificing you? It's not sacrifice. It's strategy. Mila lives. That's all that matters. Sophie's tablet flew across the room, hitting the wall. When they looked at her, she was crying silently, signing frantically. Not real signs, just desperate gestures trying to communicate something beyond words. Sophie, baby, slow down. She grabbed another tablet, typing furiously. No more mothers leaving. No more choosing to go. No more. Sophie, I'm not your mother. You are now, Sophie typed. You became mine when I became Mila's sister. That's how family works. Elena stared at this fierce, broken child. It's not that simple. Sophie typed again. Daddy has smart lawyers. Daddy has money. Daddy has connections. Use them. Marcus pulled out his phone. She's right. I've been playing defense. Time to go on offense. He dialed a number. James, Marcus Chen. I need you here now. Bring the whole team. And James, call your contact at the State Department, the one who owes me for the Beijing situation. While Marcus made calls, Elena monitored Mila's deteriorating condition. The little girl's lips were darker now, her breathing more labored even in sleep. She needs the surgery tonight, Elena said quietly. Tomorrow might be too late. Then we do it tonight. While Dmitri is watching, while your board is conspiring, it's impossible. Marcus smiled, and for the first time, Elena saw the man who'd built an empire from nothing. You're forgetting something. This is my building, my company, my rules. His phone rang. Security. Mr. Chen, Mr. Volkov is demanding to see his daughter. Tell him she's sleeping. He can wait in the lobby. Sir, he has a court order. Marcus checked the time. 40 minutes left of Dmitri's ultimatum. Stall him. I don't care how. He turned to Elena. Can you prep for surgery in 30 minutes? Yes, but... Sophie, remember the evacuation drill we practiced? Sophie nodded, signing something that definitely meant, finally. Good. Elena, get Mila ready. Sophie, you're with me. Marcus, what are you planning? He moved to Catherine's closet, pulling out a suitcase that had been packed for 2 years. Their bug-out bag, Catherine had called it, for emergencies that never came. Dimitri expects me to fold. The board expects me to choose the company over you. Everyone expects the grieving widower to make the safe, logical choice. And, Catherine always said, the best time to strike is when everyone thinks you're weakest. He pulled out documents from the safe medical power of attorney forms, emergency custody papers, things Catherine had insisted on after Sophie's birth. Dr. Richardson will be here in 20 minutes, so will my legal team. We're doing the surgery tonight, and by the time Dimitri realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. He'll destroy you, Elena said. Your company, your reputation, let him try. Marcus looked at Mila, then at Sophie, who was standing straighter than she had in 2 years. Some things are worth burning it all down for. A text from security. Mr. Volkov is coming up. We can't stop him. Safe room protocol, Marcus commanded. Sophie knows what to do. Sophie moved to the control panel, fingers flying over the touch screen. The safe room could be sealed remotely, but more importantly, it could lock down the entire penthouse floor. Elena, I need you to trust me, Marcus said. Can you do that? She looked at this man who had opened his home to strangers, who was about to risk everything for a child who wasn't his. Why? Why are you doing this? Because 2 years ago, I sat in a hospital room and watched everything I loved die while I was powerless to stop it. Because your daughter has Catherine's condition and Sophie's eyes. Because sometimes the universe gives you a second chance disguised as someone else's first chance. He paused. And because I'm falling in love with you, which is terrible timing, but grief doesn't follow schedules, and neither does hope. Elena kissed him, quick, desperate, tasting of tears and promises. Then let's save our daughter. Our daughter, Marcus repeated, the words settling into place like code finally compiling correctly. The elevator chimed. Dimitri was coming. Sophie's tablet appeared between them. Ready, also gross, also about time. And despite everything. The dying child, the dangerous ex-husband, the betraying board, the impossible surgery ahead. Marcus laughed. All right, family, he said. Let's show them what happens when they underestimate broken people who found each other. The penthouse door exploded open, Dimitri's voice booming. Elena, I know you're here. Sophie hit the final button. Lockdown engaged. Steel panels slid over windows, doors sealed with magnetic locks. The penthouse becoming a fortress. Dimitri's roar of rage echoed through the walls, but inside the safe room, a different sound emerged. Sophie, singing softly to Mila, her voice cracked from disuse but clear. Let it go, let it go. And Elena, preparing surgical instruments with steady hands, whispered, We're going to win this. Marcus, watching his patchwork family prepare for battle, knew she was right. Not because they were stronger than their enemies, but because they'd found something worth fighting for, each other. The surgery would happen. Dimitri would be defeated. The board would be handled, but first, they had to survive the next 3 hours. And Marcus Chen, who'd built an empire on impossible odds, liked their chances. Weinderforend. The surgical suite hummed with controlled chaos at 11:43 p.m., bathed in the stark white light that made everything look both sacred and sterile. Elena stood at the scrub sink, her hands moving in the ritualistic pattern she'd performed thousands of times. But never like this. Never on her own daughter. Never while her ex-husband pounded on reinforced doors 3 rooms away. His lawyers are here, Marcus said quietly, watching her through the observation window. They're threatening everything, criminal charges for unlawful imprisonment, kidnapping, practicing medicine without a license. Let them threaten, Elena replied, her voice steady as her hands. In 3 hours, either none of it will matter, or all of it will be worth it. Dr. Richardson arrived through the service entrance using Marcus's private elevator codes. Behind him came 2 nurses, Maria Santos, who'd lost her license for giving free care to undocumented immigrants, and David Park, blacklisted for refusing to falsify records for an insurance company. Catherine's research had been thorough. She'd found every brilliant medical professional the system had discarded. The anesthesia will be tricky, Richardson said, reviewing Mila's charts. Her heart's already compromised. Too much, and we lose her. Too little, and she wakes up during surgery. She won't wake up, Elena said with absolute certainty. I've calculated her doses based on 6 years of watching her respond to every medication she's ever had. I know my daughter's body better than my own. Sophie stood at the window, tablet in hand. She'd been typing the same message over and over. She has to live. She has to live. She has to live. Marcus put his hand on her shoulder. Sophie, you don't have to watch. Sophie typed, yes, I do. Sisters don't leave sisters alone. Even when it's scary. Through the intercom, they could hear Dimitri's voice, muffled but venomous. She's killing her! Elena's insane. She'll murder that child like she murdered the Kozlov girl. Mr. Chen, Patricia Winter's voice now, from the board. If this child dies, you're finished. We'll sue you into oblivion. You'll lose everything. Marcus hit the mute button. I've already lost everything once. It's liberating, really. Makes you realize how little everything actually means. Elena emerged from prep, transformed. In surgical scrubs, she wasn't the broken cleaning lady or the desperate mother. She was Dr. Volkov, hands steady, mind clear, purpose absolute. I need to tell you something, she said to Marcus. In cases. Listen to me. She pulled him aside, voice low. Dimitri didn't just come for Mila and me. He came for your company. The board didn't call him. He's been working them for months. Patricia Winters has been taking payments from his shell companies. Richard Blackstone's son has a drug problem Dimitri's been supplying. They're not just betraying you, they're owned by him. Marcus stared at her. How do you know this? Because I'm Russian. Because I was married to a monster for 7 years. Because I learned to gather insurance. She pulled a flash drive from her pocket. Everything's on here. Financial records, recordings, photos. I've been collecting it all while cleaning their offices. They talk around invisible people, say things they shouldn't. You've been investigating them? I've been protecting us, all of us, including you, from the moment Sophie smiled at Mila. Elena pressed the drive into his hand. If something happens to me in there, use this. Destroy him. Elena, promise me, if I die saving her, you destroy him. You're not going to die. Promise me. I promise, Marcus said, but you're both walking out of there. Elena nodded, then looked at Sophie through the window. Take care of her. She's going to blame herself if... Stop. Sophie's right. Sisters don't leave sisters. And mothers don't leave daughters. Not by choice. Elena's eyes filled with tears she couldn't let fall. I chose wrong so many times, staying with Dimitri, believing his promises, thinking I could change him. But Mila, she was the one thing I chose right. Now, choose to save her, Marcus said simply. Everything else is just noise. The OR door sealed with a soft hiss. Elena stood over her daughter, scalpel in hand. And for a moment, the weight of it all nearly crushed her. This tiny body she'd carried, nursed, sung to sleep 1,000 times, was now a surgical field. The heart she'd felt flutter during pregnancy was now failing machine she had to repair. Time out, she said, following protocol even here. Patient is Mila Volkov, age 6. Procedure is complete repair of tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia. I am Dr. Elena Volkov, lead surgeon. Anesthesia confirmed, Richardson said. Patient is stable. Maria Santos, surgical nurse. David Park, circulating nurse. Marcus Chen and Sophie Chen, family observers, Marcus added through the intercom, making it official, making them a family in the medical record. Elena looked up at them, saw Sophie signing something over and over. Marcus translated, she says, golden repair, kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken things with gold. Scalpel, Elena said, and began. The first hour was textbook. Elena moved with the precision of a Swiss watch, every cut deliberate, every stitch perfect. She narrated for Sophie, explaining in simple terms what she was doing, making it less scary, more miraculous. See this? Elena pointed to the screen showing Mila's heart. This is where blood should flow freely, but Mila's path is too narrow, like trying to pour the ocean through a straw. So, we're gonna make a bigger path. Sophie typed, like making a new door when the old one's too small. Exactly like that, Umnitsa. The Russian endearment slipped out, clever girl. Then, at hour 2, everything went wrong. Pressure's dropping, Richardson announced. She's bleeding somewhere. Elena's hands didn't shake, but her voice tightened. Where? I can't. Wait. The patch. The previous surgical patch from Moscow is deteriorating. Elena saw it then. The work of another surgeon, a repair that should have lasted years, failing. Inferior materials, rushed technique. Dmitri had paid for the cheapest option, even for his daughter's heart. I need 4, 0 proline now, Elena commanded, and increase the flow. She's going to arrest if we don't. The monitors screamed, flatline. No! Sophie's voice through the intercom, the first word she'd spoken in hours. Starting compressions, David said, but Elena pushed him aside. She's my daughter. I do this. Elena's hands worked the tiny chest, precise compressions that had to be perfect. Too hard, and she'd break ribs. Too soft, and the heart wouldn't restart. 1 minute, 2. Marcus held Sophie back as she pounded on the glass. Come on, little bird, Elena whispered. Come back. Your sister is waiting. Your new daddy is waiting. Come back to us. 3 minutes. Brain damage becomes likely after 4. Elena, Richardson said gently. It's been... I know how long it's been. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Dmitri doesn't get to win. Not this time. 3 minutes 40 seconds, 50. Sophie broke free from Marcus, ran to the intercom. She didn't speak, but she sang, clear, strong, the frozen song Mila loved, the one about letting go but also holding on. 4 minutes, a blip, then another. I've got rhythm, Richardson announced. Sinus rhythm, she's back. Elena didn't celebrate. She went back to work, hands steadier than they had any right to be. The deteriorated patch was removed, replaced with new material, proper material. She rebuilt the passage, rerouted the blood flow, repaired 6 years of damage and 60 minutes of surgical brilliance. That's, Richardson paused, watching her work. That's not the standard technique. No, Elena agreed. It's better. I developed it in Moscow, but they wouldn't let me publish it, said it was too radical. It's beautiful, Maria breathed. The blood flow is perfect. Outside, the pounding had stopped. Marcus checked his phone. 17 missed calls from building security. 43 from board members. 1 from someone called Viktor Kozlov. He played the voicemail on speaker for Sophie. Mr. Chen, I am in your lobby with Mr. Volkov. He tells me Dr. Volkov is operating on her daughter. I wanted you to know my daughter's death was not her fault. I've had 3 years to investigate. The medication was switched by Dmitri Volkov, not Elena. I have proof. I came to America to find her, to apologize, to beg forgiveness. Please let her know. Let her know Natasha's death wasn't her failure. Sophie typed, plot twist. Despite everything, Marcus almost laughed, his daughter finding humor in chaos. Should I tell her? Sophie shook her head, typed, after, she needs to focus, but record everything. Daddy, record all of this. Marcus had been recording since the surgery started, multiple angles, every word. Catherine had taught him. Always document the miracles. Hour 3. Elena was closing, each stitch a promise that Mila would run, play, breathe without fighting for air. The repair is complete, she announced formally. The right ventricular outflow tract has been successfully reconstructed. Pulmonary blood flow has been restored. She looked up at the observation window, at Marcus holding Sophie, both of them crying. Your sister is going to be fine. But as she said it, Elena swayed. The adrenaline that had carried her through 3 hours of surgery on 4 hours of sleep in 3 days suddenly evaporated. Elena! Richardson caught her as she collapsed. Just tired, she mumbled. Just so tired. Marcus was in the OR before anyone could stop him, Sophie right behind. They weren't supposed to be there. It violated every protocol, but nobody moved to stop them. You did it, Marcus said, supporting Elena's weight. You saved her. We saved her, Elena corrected. All of us. Sophie approached the operating table where Mila lay, tiny and pale but breathing steadily. She signed something, then spoke aloud. She looks like Sleeping Beauty, but stronger. Recovery will take weeks, Richardson said. but the repair is perfect, better than perfect. I've never seen work this good. Through the intercom, a new voice. Neither have I. They all turned. On the screen was Viktor Kozlov, standing in Marcus's office with a dozen police officers. Dmitri was in handcuffs behind him. Dr. Volkov, Viktor continued, his voice heavy with emotion. I've spent 3 years investigating my daughter's death. I know the truth now. Dmitri Volkov murdered my Natasha to frame you, to control you. He's been arrested on charges of murder, attempted murder, fraud, and 17 other crimes. Elena stared at the screen, legs giving out completely. Marcus caught her, held her. I cannot bring back my daughter, Viktor continued. But I can give back your life. Your medical license has been reinstated in Russia. The international charges have been dropped, and I've personally spoken to the American Medical Board. They're expediting your license here. I don't understand, Elena whispered. Your husband thought he was playing chess, Viktor said coldly. He forgot that in Russia, we invented the game. Every crime he committed, I documented. Every bribe, every threat, recorded. I've been watching, waiting for the right moment. Tonight, when he tried to storm the building to stop the surgery, he gave me cause to act. Patricia Winters appeared on screen, also in handcuffs. Then Richard Blackstone, half of Marcus's board, all arrested. Mr. Chen, Viktor addressed Marcus, your company is safe. The conspiracy has been exposed. The board members who betrayed you are finished. Sophie typed something, showed it to Marcus. He read it aloud. She wants to know if this means you're the good guy now. Viktor almost smiled. There are no good guys, little one. Only fathers who failed their daughters, trying to honor them in death. He looked directly at Elena. Natasha would have been 9 now. She would have loved to be a big sister to Mila. The connection ended. In the sudden silence, Mila stirred, eyes fluttering open. She looked around, confused, until she saw Elena. Mama? Her voice was stronger than it had been in months. Did you fix my broken heart? Elena sobbed, touching her daughter's face gently. Yes, little bird, we fixed it. With gold, like Sophie said, like the broken things that become beautiful. Sophie climbed onto a chair to reach Mila's hand. The most beautiful gold, invisible gold, love gold. Mila smiled, then looked at Marcus. Does this mean you're my daddy now? Sophie says you're family. Marcus looked at Elena, who was crying too hard to speak. If your mama says it's okay, then yes. Mama? Mila asked. Elena nodded, unable to form words. Good, Mila said decisively. Sophie needs a sister, and I need a daddy who doesn't scare me. And what about your mama? Marcus asked. What does she need? Mila thought about it seriously. 6 years old and wise beyond measure. She needs to stop being so tired, and maybe to smile more. Can you help with that? Marcus kissed Elena's forehead, felt her lean into him completely. I think I can manage that. Sophie typed one more thing, showed it to everyone. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up at 2 a.m. It's about who stays when staying is dangerous. It's about choosing each other over and over and over. Dr. Richardson cleared his throat. The patient needs recovery time, but she's stable. The surgery was a complete success. He looked at Elena with deep respect. Dr. Volkov, I would be honored to recommend you for privileges at any hospital in New York. Mount Sinai has an opening, Maria added. Chief of Pediatric Cardiac Surgery. They've been looking for someone with exactly your expertise. Elena looked around the OR, at Mila breathing easily for the first time in years, at Sophie finding her voice in moments of joy and fear, at Marcus who'd risked everything for strangers who'd become family. I need to sit down, she said weakly. You need to sleep, Marcus corrected, for about 3 days. Da, but Mila will be watched by an entire team of people who love her, Marcus said firmly. Sophie and I aren't going anywhere. As they helped Elena to a recovery bed, Sophie tugged Marcus's sleeve and signed something complicated. What's she saying? Elena asked drowsily. Marcus translated. She says tomorrow we should have pancakes shaped like hearts, because that's what you do when you fix a broken heart. You celebrate with themed breakfast foods. Elena laughed, exhausted and free and overwhelmed. Pancakes shaped like hearts. That's perfect. Before she drifted off, she heard Sophie singing softly to Mila, heard Marcus making calls to ensure Dmitri never got near them again, heard the steady beat of her daughter's strong, repaired heart. They'd done it. Against all odds, against all enemies, they'd saved Mila. But more than that, they'd saved each other. And in the morning, there would be heart-shaped pancakes, as the newspaper headline 3 weeks later read, "Tech Titans Fall. Chen Technologies stock plummets after CEO's secret medical scandal." But Sophie Chen, sitting in the hospital cafeteria with her iPad, had a better headline typed out, "Stupid adults ruin everything, but Mila can walk without turning blue now." Marcus sat across from her, his third coffee of the morning growing cold, while he scrolled through emails. Resignation letters from investors, partnership cancellations, speaking engagement withdrawals. In 3 weeks, he'd lost 60% of his company's value and 90% of his social capital. "Mr. Chen," Sophie said aloud. She'd been talking more, but still called him Mr. Chen when she was being serious. "Are we poor now?" "No, baby, we're just less rich." Good. Rich was boring. She went back to drawing, her current project a comic book about 2 sisters who fought dragons. The dragons all looked suspiciously like men in expensive suits. Elena appeared in the cafeteria doorway, still in her scrubs from her morning shift. Mount Sinai had given her temporary privileges while her full license was processed, but the other doctors treated her like she had leprosy. The woman who'd operated on her own daughter illegally, who'd brought down half of Manhattan's medical investment board. "How was surgery?" Marcus asked, standing to pull out her chair. "Fine. Perfect, actually." The attending surgeon made sure to mention 17 times that he would have done it differently, then use my technique anyway. She collapsed into the seat, exhaustion written in every line of her face. "How's Mila?" "Playing with the therapy dogs," Sophie announced. She named them all after Frozen characters. The Chihuahua is Olaf. Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She'd been like this for days, present but distant, grateful but guilty. "Talk to me," Marcus said quietly. "I've ruined you," Elena said simply. "Your company, your reputation, everything you built, because of me." "Because of us," Marcus corrected. "Our choice, together. You didn't choose to have Dmitri destroy your life. You didn't choose to have the media paint you as a delusional widower who endangered a child. You didn't choose—" Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Dr. Volkov, this is Margaret Chen." Elena's blood ran cold. Marcus's mother, whom she'd never met, who lived in Singapore and had been notably silent through everything. "Mrs. Chen, I'm at the hospital entrance. We need to talk. Alone." Elena looked at Marcus, who was already standing. "My mother's here? She says she wants to talk to me alone." Sophie's iPad appeared between them. "Grandmother is scary, but she sent me books last Christmas, so maybe medium scary." Margaret Chen was waiting in the lobby, 73 years old and sharp as a surgical blade. She wore Chanel-like armor and judgment like perfume. When she saw Elena, her expression revealed nothing. "Dr. Volkov, walk with me." They walked in silence through Central Park, autumn leaves crunching under designer heels and borrowed boots. Finally, Margaret spoke. "My son has lost $700 million in 3 weeks. I know. He's being sued by 12 different parties. I know. He's been removed from his own board of directors. I know." Margaret stopped, turned to face Elena directly. "And he's happier than I've seen him since Catherine died." Elena stared at her. "I flew here to destroy you," Margaret continued conversationally, "to offer you whatever money you needed to disappear, to save my son from what I assume was a gold-digging opportunist." She paused. "Then I had my people do real research, not the gossip, not the headlines, but real investigation." She pulled out a folder, 14 letters of recommendation from Moscow colleagues, all written after you lost your license, all hidden to protect the writers from Dmitri's retaliation. 37 patient families who credit you with saving their children, many who you treated for free. A paper trail showing you gave 90% of your salary to children's charities, even while married to one of Russia's richest criminals. "How did you—" "I'm Chinese, dear." We invented bureaucracy. We know how to find papers that don't want to be found. Margaret studied her. But what convinced me was this. She showed Elena a photo on her phone security footage from Marcus's building, dated 2 months ago. Elena was in her cleaning uniform, exhausted, clearly at the end of a long shift. She was standing in Marcus's office, looking at a photo of Catherine and Sophie on his desk. In her hand was an origami crane. The timestamp shows 3:47 a.m., Margaret said. According to the logs, you'd been working since 4 p.m. the previous day, nearly 12 hours of cleaning. Yet, you took the time to make something beautiful for a man who didn't even know you existed. He seemed so sad, Elena said quietly. The cranes were supposed to be hope. Hope, Margaret repeated. My son was dying inside, and you gave him hope. Sophie was disappearing, and you gave her a sister. That's worth more than $700 million. But his company will survive or it won't. Marcus has something more valuable now. A reason to fight that isn't about proving something to his dead wife. Margaret's voice softened. Catherine was my daughter-in-law, and I loved her, but she would have hated what Marcus became after her death. A monument to grief is still just a tombstone. They stopped at a bench overlooking the reservoir. Margaret sat, patting the spot beside her. Tell me about Dmitri finding you again. Elena tensed. Why? Because he didn't just randomly appear. Someone told him where you were. Someone who knew you were working in Marcus's building. Margaret pulled out another document. This is a communication record between Patricia Winters and Dmitri from 4 months ago, before you ever met Marcus. Elena read, her hands beginning to shake. The emails detailed everything. Her work schedule, Mila's condition, even which floors she cleaned. They were using me as bait, Elena whispered. They brought Dmitri in to destroy Marcus, and I was the weapon. Precisely. The board wanted Marcus out because he wouldn't weaponize the medical AI. They knew about his secret medical floor. Corporate espionage is disgustingly common. They knew he'd help a sick child. So they made sure you found him. But Sophie's drawings were real, but Patricia made sure you were assigned to clean Marcus's floor, knowing you'd see them. She counted on your desperation and his compassion. Margaret's voice turned steel. They underestimated both of you. Elena stood abruptly, rage flooding through her. I need to tell Marcus. He knows, Margaret said. I told him this morning. He said it didn't matter, that finding you and Mila was worth any conspiracy. He said that? My son is many things, but he's not stupid. He knew something was orchestrated. He chose you anyway. Margaret stood. The question is, what are you going to choose? Before Elena could answer, her phone exploded with alerts. Marcus calling, Sophie texting, the hospital paging. Mila, she breathed, already running. She found them in Mila's room, Marcus holding Sophie back while doctors worked over Mila's still form. She was playing, Sophie sobbed, speaking through tears. She was laughing, then she just fell. Post-operative complications, the attending physician said coldly. This is why we don't perform cowboy surgeries in unauthorized. Elena pushed past him, hands on Mila's chest, feeling for what the monitors weren't showing. There, a flutter, irregular, wrong. It's not the surgical site, she announced. It's a reaction. She's allergic to something. What did you give her? Standard post-operative? What specifically? Elena's voice could have cut glass. What did you change from my protocol? The nurse checked the chart. Dr. Morrison wanted to switch her antibiotics, said your choice was outdated. Elena grabbed the medication log. There it was, the one drug she'd specifically avoided, the one Mila had shown sensitivity to years ago in Moscow. Get me epinephrine and steroids now, she commanded. She's in anaphylactic shock. You're not authorized, Marcus stepped forward. I own 30% of this hospital's new wing. She's authorized. The medications were administered. 30 seconds, 60. Mila's color improved, her breathing steadied. Mama? Mila's voice was tiny. I couldn't breathe again. I know, little bird, but you're okay now. Dr. Morrison, the attending, turned purple. This is exactly why we have protocols. Your protocol almost killed her, Elena said quietly. If you'd read my surgical notes instead of dismissing them, you'd have known about her medication sensitivities. Those weren't real surgical notes. That was an illegal... That was perfect surgery. Margaret Chen's voice cut through the room. Everyone turned to see her in the doorway, phone in hand. Which I've just finished discussing with the hospital's board of directors. Dr. Morrison, you're being reviewed for gross negligence. Dr. Volkov, they're expediting your full credentials and would like to offer you the position of Chief of Pediatric Cardiac Surgery. Morrison spluttered. She can't just... She can, and she will, Margaret said coolly. Unless you'd prefer I share the recording of you bragging about letting the Russian pretender fail to teach her a lesson. Hotels have such thin walls, doctor. Your conference call this morning was quite audible. Morrison fled. The other doctors suddenly found urgent tasks elsewhere. Sophie climbed onto the bed beside Mila, careful not to disturb any tubes. Grandmother is scary, she announced. But good scary. Margaret's expression softened minutely. Hello, granddaughter. Are you here to take Daddy away from Elena? No, I'm here to invest in his new company. Marcus stared at his mother. What new company? The one you're going to build from the ashes of Chen Technologies. The one that will actually use your medical AI to help sick children instead of making weapons. Margaret pulled out a check. $500 million to start. My retirement fund. Mother, you can't... I'm 73 years old, Marcus. What am I saving it for? Another yacht? Another summer home? She looked at Mila, at Sophie, at Elena. I'd rather invest in my grandchildren's future. All my grandchildren. We're not your grandchildren yet, Mila said practically. Mama and Mr. Marcus aren't married. A technicality, Margaret dismissed. Elena, do you love my son? Elena's face reddened. Mrs. Chen? It's a simple question. Yes, Elena said quietly. Despite ruining his life, despite bringing chaos, despite everything. Yes. Marcus, do you love Elena? Mother? Also a simple question. Marcus looked at Elena, at her exhausted eyes and capable hands, at the way she stood ready to fight the entire world for Mila. Yes, completely. Then stop wasting time, Margaret said briskly. Sophie, what do you think? Sophie typed rapidly. They should get married at Christmas. Mila will be recovered. We can have cake shaped like hearts. It's thematically consistent. Thematically consistent, Marcus repeated faintly. My 9-year-old is planning weddings based on narrative structure. I'm almost 10, Sophie corrected, and someone has to be practical. Elena sank into a chair, overwhelmed. 3 weeks ago, she'd been nobody. A cleaning lady with a dying daughter. Now she was being offered everything she'd lost and more. But at what cost? The media will crucify us, she said. They'll say I'm a gold digger, that Marcus is having a breakdown, that we are endangering the children. Let them, Margaret said. The Chen family has weathered worse. My grandfather came to America with nothing and built a fortune. My son built an empire from code and dreams. Now you'll build something new together. A family, a company, a life that honors both who you've lost and who you've found. Mila raised her hand like she was in school. Question. Yes, darling, Margaret asked. If Mama marries Mr. Marcus, and you're his mama, does that make you my grandmother too? If you'll have me. Mila considered this seriously. Do you make cookies? I make the best cookies in Singapore. Then yes. Sophie typed. We should probably ask about the cookies before committing. Despite everything, the chaos, the fear, the exhaustion. Elena laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. Marcus knelt beside her chair. Elena Volkov, this is probably the worst possible time to ask this, but my daughter is demanding thematic consistency. My mother is redesigning our entire lives, and your daughter just negotiated cookie rights with remarkable skill. He pulled out a small box. This was Catherine's. She would have wanted it to be worn again, to be part of a living story instead of a dead memory. Inside was a simple diamond ring, elegant and understated. I'm not asking you to marry me today, Marcus continued. I'm asking you to consider building something with us. A family that doesn't make sense on paper but works in reality. A company that puts healing over profit. A life that honors our ghosts while feeding our hopes. Elena looked at the ring, at Marcus, at their daughters watching with held breath, at Margaret pretending not to cry. We barely know each other, she said. We know enough, Marcus replied. We know we show up at 2 a.m. We know we fight for each other. We know our daughters have decided they're sisters. Everything else is just details. My past is what brought you here. Your future is ours to write. Sophie's tablet appeared. Say yes. This is taking forever, and Mila needs to rest. Sophie, Marcus scolded. What? Someone has to think about the patient. Mila giggled, then winced. Mama, if you don't say yes, can Mr. Marcus still be my daddy? Because I already told the therapy dogs. Elena looked at this impossible, chaotic, beautiful scene. A hospital room that had become a boardroom that had become a proposal site. A family built from broken pieces, held together by stubborn love and desperate hope. Yes, she said simply. Yes, Marcus repeated. Yes to all of it. To the ring, to the company, to the cookies, to the chaos. She took his face in her hands. Yes to choosing each other over and over and over. Marcus kissed her while their daughters cheered, and Margaret took photos with surgical precision. Outside, the headlines were already forming. Chen's comeback, Russian romance, or corporate revenge. The billionaire and the cleaning lady, a modern fairy tale. But inside room 293, none of that mattered. They had each other. They had their daughters. They had Margaret and her cookies and her terrifying efficiency. They had a future that looked nothing like what any of them had planned. And it was perfect. Sophie typed one last message. Plot twist. We were never broken. We were just waiting to become whole. And somewhere, in whatever came after, Catherine Chen and Natasha Kozlova smiled, knowing their families had found each other, had saved each other, had chosen each other. The real surgery had never been about Mila's heart. It had been about all of theirs. Endor. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a process server who looked embarrassed to be there. Marcus signed for them in his pajamas, Sophie beside him eating cereal, both of them looking remarkably unbothered for people whose lives were supposedly in ruins. What's that? Sophie asked, though her tone suggested she knew exactly what it was. Elena's freedom, Marcus replied, setting the thick envelope on the counter. Dimitri's trying one last move. Sophie poured more cereal. Is he still in jail? For now, but his lawyers are good. Our lawyers are better, Sophie said confidently. Grandmother hired the ones who made that pharmaceutical company cry. True. Margaret Chen had assembled a legal team that could have prosecuted God and won. But looking at the envelope, Marcus felt the weight of everything they still had to face. His phone buzzed. Elena, from the hospital. He sent them, didn't he? Yes. You okay? Coming home? Home. She'd started calling his penthouse home 2 weeks ago, and every time she did, something in Marcus's chest expanded. Elena arrived an hour later, still in scrubs, looking like she'd aged 5 years in the morning. She picked up the envelope, turned it over, set it down again. He's offering me everything, she said quietly. Full custody of Mila, no financial obligations, complete freedom. All I have to do is sign an NDA and leave New York. Sophie's spoon clattered into her bowl. Leave? It's his final play, Elena continued. Give me what I want most, Mila's safety, but make me choose between her and you. Marcus felt the trap closing. Brilliant, really. Dimitri knew Elena would do anything for Mila, including walking away from their new family. There's more, Elena said, pulling out her phone. Viktor Kozlov called. He's willing to testify against Dimitri, but only if I agree to return to Russia to give a deposition. It would mean leaving for at least 3 weeks, right when Mila needs stability. So we're trapped, Marcus said. No, Sophie said suddenly, standing up. We're not. She ran to her room, returning with a thick folder covered in unicorn stickers. Inside were papers, drawings, and what looked like legal documents printed from the internet. I've been researching, she announced. Did you know that in New York State, children over 10 can petition the court about custody decisions? Sophie, you're 9, almost 10, in 6 days. She pulled out a carefully typed letter. And Mila is 6, which means she can express preferences even if she can't formally petition. I wrote this for the judge. Elena took the letter, read it aloud. Dear Judge, my name is Sophie Chen, and I am almost 10 years old. My sister Mila Volkov is 6. She is not my biological sister, but biology is just science, and love is more than science. The letter went on for 3 pages, detailing why Mila should stay in New York, why Elena deserved full custody, and why Dmitri was, in Sophie's words, a bad man who mistakes control for love and violence for strength. "When did you write this?" Marcus asked, stunned. "I started the day after Mila's surgery. I knew he'd try something." Sophie pulled out more papers. "I also made a timeline of all his crimes, cross-referenced with Elena's medical records from Russia. And I found 17 people willing to testify about what a good mother Elena is." 17 people? Elena's voice was faint. "The security guards you always say good morning to. The other cleaning staff. Mrs. Patterson from 4B, whose cat you saved when it was choking. Dr. Richardson, who says you're the best surgeon he's ever seen. Maria and David from the surgery. The therapy dog handler who says Mila lights up when she talks about you." Sophie paused. "Also, grandmother may have helped a little with the legal parts." Marcus's phone rang. Margaret. "I assume Sophie has unveiled her project," Margaret said without preamble. "The child is disturbingly thorough. She'd make an excellent lawyer." "Mother, did you help my 9-year-old build a legal case?" "I helped my granddaughter protect her sister. There's a difference. Also, I've just bought the building where Dimitri's New York assets are held. He's about to discover what happens when you threaten my family." Before Marcus could respond, the doorbell rang. Not the buzzer from downstairs, the actual penthouse doorbell. Through the peephole, Marcus saw a woman he didn't recognize. 60-ish, well-dressed, holding what looked like a medical bag. "Can I help you?" "Mr. Chen, my name is Dr. Sarah Fitzgerald. I was Catherine's obstetrician." Marcus's blood went cold. He opened the door. "Dr. Fitzgerald?" She smiled sadly. "I heard about everything that's been happening. May I come in? There's something you need to know." They sat in the living room, Marcus, Elena, Sophie, and Dr. Fitzgerald. The doctor pulled out a file Marcus recognized, Catherine's medical records from her pregnancy with their second child. "I've been following the news," Dr. Fitzgerald began, "the medical controversy, the illegal surgery, the custody battle, and I realized I had information that might help." She opened the file. "Catherine knew the baby had the same heart condition as Mila, tetralogy of Fallot. We diagnosed it at 20 weeks. Marcus nodded. "That's why I built the surgical suite." "Yes, but there's more." Dr. Fitzgerald pulled out an ultrasound image. "Catherine asked me to keep this private, but given the circumstances, the baby's condition was more severe than we told you. Even with surgery, survival chances were less than 20%. "What?" Marcus stared at her. "Catherine knew? She didn't want you to give up hope. She believed in miracles." The doctor turned to Elena. "She also researched every pediatric cardiac surgeon in the world. Your name came up repeatedly. She had a file on you, Dr. Volkov. Your techniques, your success rates, your papers." Elena's hands shook. "Catherine knew about me? She wanted to contact you, to fly you in for the surgery. But then," Dr. Fitzgerald paused. "The accident happened first." Sophie reached for the ultrasound image, studying it with the intensity she brought to everything. "So Mom knew about Elena before any of us?" "In a way, yes. She even mentioned it once. Said if anything happened to her, she hoped Marcus would find someone who could heal hearts, both literally and figuratively." The room was silent. Then Sophie typed on her tablet, showed it to them. "Mom sent Elena to us." "That's not how the universe works," Marcus started. "Isn't it?" Sophie interrupted. "Elena came to your building. She saw my drawings. She found the medical room. She has the exact skills to save Mila. Mom researched her." She looked at each adult in turn. "Either it's the biggest coincidence ever, or Mom is still taking care of us." Dr. Fitzgerald pulled out another document. "There's one more thing. Catherine wrote a letter to be opened if something happened to her. She gave it to me because she said doctors understand both death and hope." The letter was in Catherine's handwriting, dated a week before her death. "My dearest Marcus and Sophie, if you're reading this, then my worst fears have come true, but also my greatest hope that you're still here, still fighting, still capable of love. Marcus, you're going to blame yourself. You're going to build walls of guilt and isolation. You're going to think you failed us. You didn't. You loved us completely, and that love doesn't die with me. Sophie, my brave girl, you're going to think I chose to leave. I didn't. Every heartbeat I have is yours, even the last one. Find each other again. Find joy again. Find someone who sees your broken pieces and calls them beautiful. The universe doesn't take without giving back. Watch for gifts disguised as disasters, for angels disguised as strangers, for love disguised as coincidence. Take care of each other. Take care of whoever else needs you. Build the family I couldn't stay to build with you. All my love, always, Catherine. Elena was crying. Marcus was crying. Sophie climbed into Marcus's lap, typing, "She knew, somehow, she knew." This letter, Dr. Fitzgerald said carefully, could be very helpful in the court. It shows Catherine's wishes for Marcus to rebuild, to find love again, to create a new family. "You'd testify?" Elena asked. "Absolutely. Catherine would have loved you, Dr. Volkov. You're everything she hoped Marcus would find. Brilliant, fierce, devoted to children, and strong enough to handle the Chin family chaos." Sophie typed, "Also, you make really good Russian soup." Despite everything, Elena laughed. "Borscht. It's called borscht." "Emotional soup," Sophie corrected. "You made it when Mila was scared. That's emotional soup." The doorbell rang again. This time it was James, Marcus's lawyer, with 3 other attorneys and boxes of documents. "We have a problem," James announced. "Dimitri's been released on bail. His lawyers filed an emergency custody petition. The hearing is tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Elena stood, panicking. "I can't prepare by tomorrow." "You don't have to." Margaret Chen's voice came from the doorway. She entered like a general surveying a battlefield. "I've been preparing since the day I met you." Behind her came an army. Dr. Richardson, Maria, David, the security guard Sophie had mentioned, Mrs. Patterson with her recovered cat, even the therapy dog handler with 2 of the dogs. "What is this?" Marcus asked. "This," Margaret said with satisfaction, "is what happens when you threaten my grandchildren. Everyone here is prepared to testify on Elena's behalf." "But we're not even married yet," Elena started. "About that," Margaret interrupted. "Judge Harrison is a friend. He's willing to perform an emergency ceremony tonight. If you're married, Dimitri's custody claim weakens significantly." "Tonight?" Marcus and Elena said simultaneously. Sophie typed frantically, "Yes, tonight. I already picked my dress." "When did you pick a dress?" Marcus asked. 3 weeks ago. I've been prepared." She looked at Elena. "I have one for Mila, too. They match, but not too matchy." Elena sank onto the couch. "This is insane." "This is family," Margaret corrected. "We protect our own." Mila's voice came from the hallway. "Mama?" She stood there in her pajamas, still pale but steadier on her feet. "Why is everyone here?" Elena opened her arms and Mila climbed into them. "They're here to help us stay together." "Forever?" Mila asked. "Forever," Marcus confirmed, sitting beside them. Sophie wedged herself between them all, typing, "So, we're getting married tonight, fighting Dimitri tomorrow, and living happily ever after starting Wednesday." "That's the plan," Margaret said. "Good plan," Sophie said aloud. Then, to Elena, "Do you want to marry Daddy? Not because of Dimitri or custody or lawyers, but because you want to." Elena looked at Marcus, this man who'd opened his home to strangers, who'd risked everything for her daughter, who'd held her while she cried and celebrated while she succeeded. Then at Sophie, this brilliant, broken, healing child who'd claimed them so fiercely. At Mila, breathing easily for the first time in her life. At the room full of people ready to fight for them. "Yes," she said simply. "I want to marry him because when I'm with him, I remember who I used to be before fear. I want to marry him because he makes me brave enough to be myself again." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Then let's get married." Sophie jumped up. "Wedding preparation activation." "Is that a thing?" Mila asked. "It is now," Sophie declared. "Grandmother, you're in charge of food. Dr. Richardson, you're in charge of music. Security guards, you're in charge of security, obviously. Mrs. Patterson, your cat can be the ring bearer." "Sophie," Marcus laughed. "We can't—" "Yes, we can," Margaret interrupted. "Let her plan. She's been holding this family together with determination and origami cranes. The least we can do is give her the wedding she's designed." Dr. Fitzgerald stood to leave, then paused. "Catherine would be so proud, all of you, choosing each other, fighting for each other. It's exactly what she would have wanted." As the penthouse exploded into wedding preparations, Sophie directing everyone like a tiny general, Mila insisting on flower crowns, Margaret making phone calls in 3 languages. Elena pulled Marcus aside. "Are you sure?" she asked. "This isn't how you imagined." "Nothing about my life is how I imagined," Marcus said. "I imagined growing old with Catherine. I imagined 2 children. I imagined a simple, predictable future." He cupped her face. "Instead, I got you, brilliant, fierce, complicated you. I got Mila, who looks at me like I hung the moon. I got Sophie talking again, laughing again, living again. I didn't get what I imagined. I got what I needed." Elena kissed him, deep and sure, while their daughters giggled and Margaret pretended not to take photos. In 6 hours, they'd be married. In 18 hours, they'd face Dimitri in court. In 24 hours, they'd know if their patchwork family could survive. But right now, in this moment, with Sophie teaching Mila the wedding dance she'd invented, and Margaret arguing with caterers and the therapy dogs wearing bow ties someone had produced, they were already everything they needed to be. A family built from broken pieces, held together with golden seams, stronger for having been shattered. "Plot twist," Sophie announced to the room. "The real treasure was the family we made along the way." And everyone, even the lawyers, had to agree. The courtroom at 9 a.m. looked like a battlefield dressed in marble and mahogany. On one side sat Dmitry Volkov, flanked by 4 lawyers in suits that cost more than most people's cars. On the other, Elena sat between Marcus and Margaret, their wedding rings catching the morning light. Simple bands exchanged 12 hours ago in a ceremony that had made everyone cry, especially Sophie when she'd insisted on giving a speech about the statistical improbability of finding perfect people. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Harrison." Judge Harrison entered, 70 years old, with eyes that had seen every possible human cruelty and kindness. She looked at both sides, her gaze lingering on Mila, who sat in the gallery with Sophie, both girls in matching blue dresses that Sophie had declared appropriately serious but still pretty. "We're here for an emergency custody hearing regarding minor child Mila Volkov," the judge began. "Mr. Dmitry Volkov seeks immediate return of his daughter to his custody, claiming parental alienation and endangerment." Dmitry's lead attorney, a shark named Harrison Beck, stood. "Your Honor, my client's daughter was subjected to illegal surgery by an unlicensed practitioner who happened to be her mother and a recognized expert in pediatric cardiac surgery," Elena's lawyer, James, interrupted. "Mr. Chen," the judge warned, "you'll have your turn." Beck continued, his voice oily with false concern. "This child was hidden from her father, subjected to dangerous medical procedures, and is now being held in an environment where she's exposed to a woman with documented mental instability." He produced the video, Elena's breakdown in Moscow, carefully edited to look like random violence rather than grief. Elena felt Marcus's hand tighten on hers. "Stay calm," his touch said. "Trust the plan." "Furthermore," Beck continued, "Dr. Volkov has been living illegally in the United States, working without proper documentation, and has now entered into a sham marriage to avoid deportation and maintain illegal custody of a child who belongs with her father." "Objection," James said calmly. "Speculation about the nature of my client's marriage." "Sustained." Beck smiled, shark-like. "Your Honor, we have evidence that this marriage occurred less than 24 hours ago, clearly as a legal maneuver." "Your Honor," James interrupted, "if we're discussing the timing of marriages, should we also discuss Mr. Dmitry Volkov's 3 marriages, all to women who subsequently filed restraining orders?" "Objection." "Sustained. Both of you, approach." While the lawyers whispered furiously with the judge, Sophie pulled out her tablet, typing rapidly. She showed it to Mila. "Don't worry, part 2 is coming." Part 2 walked through the door in the form of Viktor Kozlov. The courtroom went silent. Dmitry's face went white, then red, then a concerning shade of purple. "Your Honor," Viktor said formally, "I am Viktor Kozlov, former Russian energy minister. I have evidence relevant to this case. Judge Harrison studied him. This is highly irregular, Mr. Kozlov. As is a father murdering a child to frame his wife, Victor replied coldly. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged her gavel. Order, Mr. Kozlov. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, Your Honor. It's a confession. Victor pulled out a laptop. 3 years ago, my daughter Natasha died during surgery performed by Dr. Elena Volkov. For 3 years, I believed she killed my child through negligence. I was wrong. He opened the laptop, connected it to the courtroom screen. These are communications between Dmitry Volkov and my former head of security, discussing the plan to switch Natasha's medications. This is the purchase order for the contaminated drugs. This is Dmitry Volkov's voice, recorded without his knowledge, bragging about how he destroyed his wife's career to control her. The recording played, Dmitry's voice filling the courtroom. Elena thinks she's so smart, so independent. But take away her career, her confidence, her options, and she becomes exactly what she should be. Dependent, controllable, mine. Your Honor, Beck stammered, this evidence hasn't been properly submitted. It has, James said smoothly, producing documents. Mr. Kozlov provided all evidence to the FBI 3 weeks ago. Mr. Dmitry Volkov is currently under federal investigation for murder, attempted murder, international drug trafficking, and 17 other charges. Dmitry stood. Lies! Victor, tell them the truth. I am, Victor said quietly. The truth is, you killed my daughter to get a weapons deal. You destroyed your wife because she threatened to expose you. And now you want your daughter back not because you love her, but because she's your last bargaining chip. Your Honor, James continued, we have additional witnesses. One by one, they came forward. Dr. Richardson testified about Elena's surgical brilliance and Mila's desperate need for the operation that saved her life. Maria and David described watching Elena perform miracles with steady hands, while her ex-husband literally pounded on the doors. Mrs. Patterson, clutching her cat, told the judge how Elena had saved the animal with the same quick thinking she used in surgery, never mentioning she was a doctor, just helping because help was needed. The security guards testified about Elena coming to work injured, clearly abused, but never missing a shift, never complaining, always professional. Then came Dr. Fitzgerald, holding Catherine's letter. Your Honor, I was Catherine Chen's obstetrician. This letter, written a week before her death, expressed her explicit wish for her husband to find love again, to build a new family, to heal. She read the key passage. Find someone who sees your broken pieces and calls them beautiful. The judge turned to Dmitry's side. Mr. Beck, do you have witnesses? Beck stood uncertainly. We call Patricia Winters. But Patricia Winters was in federal custody, arrested for corporate espionage. Richard Blackstone, also arrested. Then we call... Beck shuffled papers desperately. We called Dmitry Volkov to testify on his own behalf. Dmitry took the stand, his composure cracking. Your Honor, I'm a successful businessman. I can provide Mila with the best of everything. Can you provide her with love? Judge Harrison interrupted. Can you provide her with safety? Can you provide her with a mother who literally rebuilt her heart? I'm her father. Biology doesn't make you a father, the judge said coldly. Tell me, Mr. Volkov, what's Mila's favorite color? Dmitry paused. Pink. From the gallery, Mila's voice piped up. It's purple. Purple like Mama's scrubs. What does she want to be when she grows up? A doctor? A veterinarian, Mila said. Or a dragon trainer, but Sophie says that's not a real job yet. Judge Harrison looked at Elena. Dr. Volkov, same questions. Elena didn't hesitate. Purple, but specifically lavender purple. She wants to be a veterinarian specializing in cardiac surgery for animals, because she thinks all hearts deserve fixing. Her favorite book is Charlotte's Web, but she won't read the ending because she says Charlotte deserved better. She sleeps with 3 stuffed animals named after Frozen characters, but her favorite is actually a bear named Mr. Darcy, because Sophie introduced her to Pride and Prejudice, which is entirely inappropriate for a 6-year-old, but Sophie insists builds character. The judge almost smiled. And you, Mr. Chen, you've known this child for, what, a month? Marcus stood. 5 weeks, Your Honor. In that time, I've learned that Mila hums when she's nervous, specifically the tune from Swan Lake because her mother used to play it during her treatments in Moscow. She eats pizza by picking off all the toppings first, then eating them in order of preference, saving the cheese for last, because she says it's the best part. She's afraid of thunderstorms, but pretends she's not, because Sophie's afraid too, and she doesn't want to make it worse. She can already read at a 3rd grade level in 2 languages, but pretends she can't so other kids don't feel bad. He paused, looked directly at Dmitri. And when she has nightmares, she doesn't call for you. She calls for her mama, every single time. This is emotional manipulation, Dmitri exploded. I demand my rights as a father. Your rights? Judge Harrison's voice could have frozen. Hell. Let's discuss your rights. You have the right to remain silent while federal authorities investigate you for murder. You have the right to an attorney while you're prosecuted for abuse, neglect, and attempted human trafficking. Yes, Mr. Volkov, forcing your ex-wife back to Russia under threat qualifies. You have the right to explain to your daughter someday why you valued control over her happiness. She turned to the gallery. Mila, would you like to say something? Mila stood, Sophie holding her hand. I have a paper. She walked forward, handed the judge a drawing. It was their family. Marcus tall and protective, Elena with her stethoscope and kind eyes, Sophie with her tablet and fierce expression, and Mila in the middle, her chest decorated with gold lines like kintsugi, the Japanese art they had talked about. This is my family, Mila said clearly. Daddy Marcus saved me and Mama from being cold and scared. Sophie is my sister, who teaches me big words and how to be brave. Mama fixed my broken heart with actual surgery, which is really hard, and she's really smart. And Grandmother Margaret makes cookies and scares mean people. She looked at Dmitri. You're not in the picture because you're mean, and you hurt Mama, and you said I was broken and not worth fixing. But I am worth fixing. Sophie said so. And Sophie's always right about important things. Mila, Dmitri's voice broke. Papa loves you. No, Mila said simply. Love doesn't hurt. Sophie taught me that. Love is when Mama stays up all night watching me breathe. Love is when Daddy Marcus carries me when I'm too tired. Love is when Sophie shares her iPad, even though it's her favorite thing. Love is when Grandmother Margaret fights grown-ups for us. She paused. You don't love me, you love controlling me. There's a difference. The courtroom was silent. Sophie stepped forward. Your Honor, I'm Sophie Chen, and I have something to say. Judge Harrison nodded. Go ahead. Sophie pulled out her prepared speech, then crumpled it up. I was going to read this whole thing about legal stuff and custody precedents. Yes, I know what those words mean. But actually, I just want to say this. Family isn't about blood or papers or who was there first. It's about who shows up when showing up is dangerous. It's about who stays when staying is hard. It's about choosing each other even when the world says you're wrong. She looked at Dmitri. You had 6 years to be Mila's father. You chose to be her owner instead. Now we choose to be her family. And if you really loved her, even a little bit, you'd let her stay where she's happy. Your Honor, James stood, we have one more piece of evidence. Security footage from the Chen building, dated 6 weeks ago. The screen showed Elena in her cleaning uniform, exhausted, clearly at the end of a brutal shift. The timestamp read 3:47 a.m. She was in Marcus's office, but not cleaning. She was standing at his window, looking at a photo of Sophie and Catherine on his desk. The audio was faint, but clear. I don't know you, Mr. Chen, but I see your sadness. I see your daughter's drawings, how she gets smaller in each one. I was a doctor once. I saved children. Now I clean their futures while my own child dies slowly. But you have so much but hold so little. I wish I could tell you that it gets better, that losing someone doesn't break you forever. But I can't lie, not even to a stranger. So, instead, I'll leave you hope. She pulled out paper, folded an origami crane with practiced precision, left it on his desk. 23 cranes, Elena's voice continued. That's how many I've made for you. In Japan, they say 1,000 cranes grant a wish. I'll never make that many. Mila doesn't have that much time, but maybe 23 is enough for a small wish. Maybe just enough for you to smile again, for your daughter to speak again, for both of you to remember that broken doesn't mean worthless. The footage ended. Judge Harrison looked at Elena. You didn't know him, but you cared. I recognize the pain, Elena said simply. It's the same pain I saw in the mirror every morning. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then, I've heard enough. Mr. Dmitry Volkov, your petition for custody is denied. Furthermore, I'm issuing a permanent restraining order. You are not to come within 500 feet of Mila Volkov, Elena Chen, or any member of the Chen family. Chen, Dmitry sputtered. Her name is Volkov. Dr. Elena Chen legally changed her name upon marriage. Mila's name change petition is approved as of... The judge checked her watch. Right now, Mila Chen has 2 legal parents, Marcus and Elena Chen, and the protection of this court. She looked at Elena and Marcus. Dr. Chen, Mr. Chen, this court recognizes your marriage as valid, your family as legitimate, and your custody of Mila as permanent and irrevocable. Dmitry roared, lunged forward, but federal agents were already moving. They arrested him in the courtroom, his lawyers scrambling away like roaches when the light comes on. Sophie and Mila ran forward, crashing into their parents. Margaret stood, dignified and victorious, already on the phone with someone about Phase 2 of destroying that Russian cockroach. Viktor Kozlov approached slowly. Dr. Chen, he said to Elena, I cannot undo what I did. I cannot bring back the 3 years of suffering, but I can do this. He handed her an envelope. Natasha had a trust fund, $5 million. I've transferred it to Mila for her future medical needs, her education, her dreams of becoming a veterinarian or dragon trainer. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Victor, I can't. You can. You will. It's what Natasha would have wanted. She loved helping animals too. His voice broke. She would have loved Mila. As they left the courthouse, journalists swarmed. Mr. Chen, how does it feel to win? Marcus pulled his family close. We didn't win anything. We just refused to lose each other. Dr. Chen, what's next for you? Elena smiled. Surgery tomorrow morning, saving another child's heart. It's what I do. Sophie, any comments? Sophie looked directly at the cameras. Yes. If you're watching this and you're scared or alone or think nobody wants you, remember this. Family finds you. Sometimes it takes a while, sometimes it hurts first, but family finds you. Also, my sister Mila is the bravest person ever, and my mom Elena is basically a superhero surgeon, and my dad Marcus builds entire hospitals in secret because he loves that much, and my grandmother Margaret is scarier than any bad guy ever. So, yeah, we're good. As they walked away, Mila tugged on Marcus's hand. Daddy! The words stopped him cold. It was the first time she'd called him that without prompting. Yes, sweetheart? Can we have heart-shaped pancakes for dinner to celebrate our fixed hearts? Marcus picked her up, his vision blurring. We can have heart-shaped everything. Sophie grabbed Elena's hand. Mom, I know you're not my first mom, but you're my now mom, and that's actually harder because you chose us when we were already broken. So, thank you. Elena knelt, pulled Sophie close. You're not broken, my love. You're like Mila's heart, repaired with gold, stronger for having been tested. Margaret approached, phone finally silent. The car's ready. Dmitry's assets have been frozen, his connections are being arrested globally, and I've bought his family's ancestral home in Russia, which I plan to turn into a children's cardiac center. She smiled sharply. He'll die knowing his name only survives because of the children Elena saves. Grandmother, Sophie said seriously, you're legitimately terrifying. Thank you, darling. Now, who wants ice cream? It's 10 a.m., Marcus protested. We just defeated an international criminal, saved our family, and made legal history, Margaret replied. If that doesn't deserve ice cream for breakfast, I don't know what does. As they climbed into the car, Sophie pulled out her tablet, typing one final message for her social media post. Plot twist. The villain thought he was playing chess, but we were playing family, and family always wins because family doesn't follow rules. It makes its own. The post would go viral within hours, inspiring thousands of other unconventional families to share their stories. But Sophie didn't know that yet. All she knew was that she had a sister who sang, a mother who performed miracles, a father who chose love over logic, and a grandmother who could probably conquer small nations before lunch. It wasn't the family she'd started with, it was the family she'd fought for, and that made it perfect. Part 10. The Golden Repair, 3,000 Words. 1 year later, Christmas Eve. The Chen Technologies' annual Christmas Gala had been transformed. Where once there had been ice sculptures and champagne fountains, now there were therapy dogs wearing reindeer antlers and children's artwork covering every wall. The company's new focus, the Chen Foundation for Pediatric Cardiac Care, had turned the cold corporate event into something alive with purpose. Marcus stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. His company had not only survived but thrived after pivoting to medical technology. The AI that boards wanted to weaponize now helped doctors diagnose heart conditions in children across 40 countries. A year ago tonight, Marcus began, his voice steady, I found a little girl sleeping in the cold behind this building. I thought I was saving her. I was wrong. She saved me. In the audience, Elena sat with Mila on her lap, both in matching emerald dresses that Sophie had insisted were narratively appropriate for a happy ending. Sophie herself stood beside Margaret, wearing a suit because, as she'd announced that morning, dresses are societally constructed gender expectations, and I'm above that now. That night began a series of events that destroyed everything I thought I knew about success, Marcus continued. I lost board members, investors, and about 60% of my net worth. He paused, smiled. I gained a family, a purpose, and the knowledge that some things can't be measured in stock prices. Applause rippled through the crowd, but Marcus wasn't done. Tonight, I want to announce 3 things. First, the Chen Foundation has completed its 100th free surgery for children with cardiac conditions. The 100th child is here tonight. Tommy Martinez, age 4, whose heart was repaired by the brilliant doctor Elena Chen. Tommy waved from his mother's arms, his chest bearing the faint scar that Sophie had told him made him look like a warrior. Second, Marcus continued, Chen Technologies' new diagnostic AI has been approved for global distribution. We're giving it away free to any hospital that serves low-income populations. Profit is no longer our primary metric. Lives saved is. More applause, but Elena noticed Marcus's hands shaking slightly. She knew what was coming. Third, Marcus's voice softened. I want to tell you about Catherine Chen, my first wife, who died 3 years ago tomorrow. The room went silent. Marcus had never spoken publicly about Catherine's death. Catherine was pregnant when she died. Our second daughter had the same heart condition that Mila had, that Tommy had, that 100 children we've helped had. Catherine knew our baby might not survive, but she researched anyway. She found a Russian doctor named Elena Volkov, whose surgical techniques were revolutionary. She never got to contact her. He looked directly at Elena, but the universe has a sense of humor, or maybe Catherine does, wherever she is. Because that doctor now stands in the very surgical suite Catherine insisted I build. That doctor is now my wife, my partner, and the mother to both our daughters. That doctor has saved lives Catherine dreamed of saving. Sophie stepped forward, tablet in hand. Can I say something? Marcus nodded, and Sophie took the microphone with the confidence of someone who'd been preparing for this moment. Hi, I'm Sophie Chen. I'm 10 3/4, which is basically 11. A year ago, I didn't talk because I thought words were broken. Like, how can you say I'm fine when you're not? How can you say good morning when mornings feel bad? But then Mila came, and she needed words. She needed someone to teach her English words for feelings she'd only felt in Russian. So I started talking again because silence is selfish when someone needs your voice. She pulled up something on her tablet, projected it onto the screen behind her. It was her comic book, The Sisters Who Fixed Hearts, now being published with proceeds going to the foundation. This is our story, but also not our story. It's about 2 girls who discover they can literally repair broken hearts with golden thread. It's metaphorical, obviously. The golden thread represents love, which sounds cheesy but is scientifically accurate because oxytocin literally helps cardiac function. Light laughter rippled through the crowd. Anyway, Sophie continued, the point is, everyone's heart breaks sometimes, from disease or death, or just life being life. But broken doesn't mean worthless. In Japanese culture, they have this thing called kintsugi, where they repair broken pottery with gold. The broken thing becomes more beautiful because the repair shows its history. She looked at Mila, who was signing, "I love you" from the audience. We're all kintsugi, me with my selective mutism that's mostly better, but sometimes isn't. Mila with her actual repaired heart. Mom Elena, who had to break completely before she could rebuild. Dad, who thought grief meant stopping, but learned it just means continuing differently. Even grandmother, though she'll deny having feelings because she's basically a beautiful robot. "I have feelings," Margaret called out. "I feel satisfaction when destroying enemies." "See? Feelings," Sophie grinned. "But here's what I learned. The gold isn't the repair. The gold is the choice to repair. The gold is saying, this broken thing deserves to be whole. The gold is love that sees damage and calls it history, sees scars and calls them stories." She pulled out a small box, walked to Elena. "Mom, this is for you." Elena opened it. Inside was an origami crane, but made of golden paper, each fold precise and perfect. "It's the 1001st, Sophie explained. "You made 23 for Dad when you didn't know him. Dad made 40 for you when you were scared. Mila and I have been making them all year. Last night, we hit 936. This morning, the nurses at the hospital, the security guards, Mrs. Patterson, even the therapy dog's handlers, everyone made one. We hit exactly 1,000 with mine." Elena was crying openly now. "Sophie?" "The wish," Sophie said firmly, "is that we stay exactly this happy forever, which is impossible because happiness fluctuates and forever is a logical fallacy. But the wish stands." Mila suddenly stood up in Elena's lap. "My turn." She walked to the microphone, still small for 7 but standing tall. Her surgical scar was hidden beneath her dress, but she touched the spot like a talisman. "Hi, I'm Mila Chen. My heart got fixed twice. Once by Mama with actual surgery, and once by my family with love. They're both important, but love hurt less." The audience laughed. "I want to say something to kids who are sick like I was. Being sick isn't your fault. Having a broken heart isn't punishment. You're not broken, you're just in progress, like a painting that's not done yet. And sometimes the best families are the ones that find you when you're in progress, because they choose you even when you're not finished." She looked at Dimitri's former colleagues, some of whom had come to gloat but stayed to listen. Also, to grown-ups who think control is love, it's not. Love is Daddy Marcus sleeping on the hospital floor, so I wouldn't be alone. Love is Mama doing illegal surgery to save me. Love is Sophie teaching me curse words in sign language so teachers don't know. "Mila," Elena and Marcus said simultaneously. "What? It's educational," Mila defended. "Love is grandmother buying my biological father's house and turning it into a place that saves kids. That's literally the best revenge ever, and I'm 7, and even I know that's savage." Margaret raised her champagne glass in acknowledgement. Viktor Kozlov approached the stage. He'd been funding the foundation quietly. His penance for 3 years of misplaced hatred. "May I?" Marcus nodded, and Viktor took the microphone. "My daughter Natasha died 4 years ago. For 3 years I blamed the wrong person. Dr. Elena Chen tried to save her, while Dmitry Volkov murdered her. I cannot undo my mistakes, but I can honor my daughter's memory." He pulled out a document. "The Kozlov Institute for Pediatric Cardiac Research will work in partnership with the Chen Foundation. Fully funded, permanently endowed. Natasha loved butterflies. The Institute's symbol will be a butterfly with golden wings. Transformation through repair." Elena left her seat, walked to Viktor, and hugged him. The former Minister of Energy, who'd once terrified entire governments, cried into her shoulder. "She forgives you," Elena whispered. "Natasha forgives you. Mothers know these things." As the evening continued, the party moved to the surgical suite, the secret one that was secret no more. It had been transformed into a memorial and teaching space. The walls held photos of every child saved there, including Mila's surgery night. Dr. Richardson stood with Maria and David, the team that had been there that night. "You know," Richardson said, "I've been practicing medicine for 30 years. That night, that surgery, with Dmitry literally trying to break down the doors, That was the most insane, beautiful, terrifying thing I've ever been part of. Would you do it again? Marcus asked. In a heartbeat, all three said simultaneously. Sophie pulled out her tablet, showing something to Mila. Look, our comic book is trending. 17,000 kids have shared their own heart repair stories. One message stood out. I'm 11 and have the same condition Mila had. Surgery is next week. I was scared, but now I want to be brave like her. Thank you for showing that scars can be beautiful. Mila typed back, scars are beautiful. They mean you fought something and won. Good luck on your surgery. P.S. Ask for heart-shaped jello after. It's thematically appropriate. You've been spending too much time with Sophie, Elena laughed. Is that possible? Sophie asked seriously. Can you spend too much time with perfection? Your humility is overwhelming, Marcus said dryly. Humility is for people who aren't measurably awesome, Sophie replied. As the party wound down, the family gathered in Marcus's office, the same one where Elena had left those first cranes. The desk was covered with 1,001 golden origami cranes, arranged in a pattern that Sophie insisted represented mathematical perfection, but also emotional resonance. We need a family photo, Margaret declared, producing a camera. A real one, not those horrible selfies Sophie keeps taking. My selfies are art. Your selfies are crimes against photography. They arranged themselves, Marcus and Elena in the center, Sophie and Mila in front, Margaret beside them, somehow making even a family photo look like a corporate takeover. Wait, Tommy Martinez, the night's honored patient, ran over. Can I be in it? You're the coolest family ever. Soon, every child who'd been helped by the foundation crowded into the photo. Their parents joined, then the medical staff, then the security guards who'd been there from the beginning. This is chaos, Margaret said, but she was smiling. This is family, Elena corrected. Extended, chosen, chaotic family. The photo would later hang in the foundation's entrance, titled simply, The Golden Repair. As midnight approached, they stood on the roof of the building, the same spot where Marcus had once contemplated jumping after Catherine's death. Now it held a small garden, Mila's idea, with plants that bloomed even in winter. It's Christmas, Mila announced. Officially? Make a wish, Sophie instructed. I thought we used our wish on the cranes, Mila said. Different wish system. Christmas wishes are separate from crane wishes. It's basic wish economics. They stood in a circle, hands linked, each making private wishes. But Marcus spoke his aloud. I wish Catherine could see this, could see who we've become. She can, Sophie said with absolute certainty. She sent Elena to us. She made sure the medical room was ready. She probably orchestrated this whole thing from wherever she is, because Mom was extra like that. Sophie, Elena said gently, you know that's not scientifically possible. Neither was Mila surviving without surgery. Neither was you finding us exactly when we needed you. Neither was Dad rebuilding his entire life in a year. Sophie looked up at the stars, barely visible through Manhattan's glow. Maybe magic is just science we don't understand yet. Maybe love is literally quantum entanglement. Maybe Mom is still taking care of us through universal coincidence. Or maybe, Marcus said, pulling his family closer, we just got lucky. Luck, Margaret scoffed. Luck is for people who don't make their own destiny. Mila yawned hugely. Can destiny wait until tomorrow? I'm tired. Marcus picked her up, her head dropping onto his shoulder with the trust of absolute safety. Elena carried Sophie, who protested that she was too old for this, but wrapped her arms around Elena's neck anyway. As they walked back inside, Margaret following with the satisfied air of a general after victory, snow began to fall. Not the harsh, bitter snow of that night a year ago, but soft flakes that looked like stars deciding to visit Earth. Hey, Dad? Sophie said sleepily. Are you happy? Marcus looked at his patchwork family. Elena, whose strength still took his breath away. Mila, whose repaired heart beat strongly against his chest. Sophie, whose voice had returned fuller and fiercer than before. Margaret, who'd traded retirement for revolution. I'm more than happy, he said. I'm whole. Good, Sophie mumbled, because tomorrow I want to discuss expanding the foundation internationally. I have spreadsheets. Of course you do, Elena laughed. Also, Mila added, half asleep. More dogs. The therapy dogs need friends. Anything else? Marcus asked, amused. Yes, Margaret said. I'm buying the building next door. We're expanding. The Chen Foundation is going to save every broken heart in the world, one child at a time. That's ambitious, Elena said. We're Chens, Margaret replied simply. Ambitious is what we do. As they entered the penthouse, their home, their sanctuary, their beginning, Sophie had the last word, typed on her tablet because some things were too important for voices. Family status, complete, hearts repaired, gold, everywhere, plot, twisted perfectly. Ending, happy, for now, because stories continue. But this is a good pause point. Rating, 5 stars, would recommend this family to anyone. P.S. Mom, Elena, tomorrow, can you teach me that surgical stitch you do? I want to learn to repair things too. Not hearts necessarily, but maybe start with teddy bears. You've got to start somewhere. P.P.S. Dad, the AI diagnostic system could be more efficient. I have ideas. Prepare yourself. P.P.P.S. Mila, you drooled on Dad's suit. It's gross, but also cute. P.P.P.P.S. Grandmother, thank you for being scary in the best way. P.P.P.P.P.S. Mom, Catherine, if you're reading this somehow, we're okay. More than okay. We're golden. And they were. Golden in their broken places, golden in their repaired spaces, golden in the choice to become family, despite everything that said they couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't work. But they did work. They worked perfectly, like hearts repaired with gold, like love that chose itself into existence, like the family they'd fought to become, the end. But really, just the beginning.